You got it?
Oh, shit.
Well, that was fun. Did you enjoy putting my my door in? Yeah, we're recording. Hi, welcome.
Is that why you covered the thingy?
Yeah.
I
like that. I like
you
that you.
record all of that? Oh, I didn't realize. Okay, that I didn't realize.
I like that you caught on to that. I like having nice, natural little starters, not just okay and silent. Okay. Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome to the VidGames podcast. Like, that was fucking funny.
And silence.
And action. Yeah. Welcome to the next episode of the VidGames podcast. Today we're doing another console little look back slash up to where we are now, but this time with PlayStation consoles. So last time we did this was with Chase, and we did the Nintendo consoles, and we just recalled stories, games, how we got certain consoles and whatever. So Vic and I are huge PS1 or PlayStation dudes in general, and we started with that pretty much first. I mean, you grew up where you were fortunate enough to have PS2 and GameCube, and that was essentially your start with some PS1, of course. But I go back as far as the PS1, so I have them up on our monitor, and we're gonna just kind of go through like when they were released, and we'll just go from there. Okay. So what are your memories of the PS1 since it came out in for us 95? I'm a month older than the PS1, at least in North America. Japan came out a year prior.
Not really. Oh, it's
December
right there,
94.
Yeah. I mean, since all of my memories of the PS1 are basically on PS2, it was having grown up with, at least as far back as I can remember, with PlayStation first. It was like, it's kind of weird, honestly, because it's like, I guess in my instance, it's like, it was just a mix of three different consoles, because it was PS1 and being backwards compatible with PS2, the PS2, and then the GameCube. And all of that stuff in a short span of time is like, I don't know. I can't really say much about PS1 because
Does it all just kind of like meld together since you had that much variety to choose from?
Pretty much that, because it goes. It's the same way with GameCube too. It's like there was so much surrounding all of that that's like I can't really pick specific memories because they're all mixed together. Really.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very experimental time, which we'll get into once we get to PS2. Because, yeah, that's when GameCube came around, so we had more to play. And we were just finding games that were random, that were, like, out of nowhere almost. Some that people know, some that people don't. We'll get into that later. But for PS1, since, again, I'm just about a little over a year older than the North American PS1. So, I want to say, again, even, okay, when I first started, it's muddled only because I was so small. I literally do not remember. All I know is I was at least 2 or 3 years old. I keep saying it had to actually be one of those two ages, because by the time of 4, 5, or 6 years old, you know, I do have more memories within there, but those I don't think were my first ones. Like, I couldn't tell you when we got the first Crash game or Spyro or anything. Because my mom got it kind of for herself at first, but then when she had me, she was like, okay, well, this would be a nice thing to distract him and have him do whatever, and he can play games. It's not all I did, of course. I did have my, PBS Kids or One Saturday Mornings and what have you, but video games were up there for me for as far back as I can remember. So with the PS1, it was Crash. And that's just because, Crash in comparison to Spyro, it's just because Spyro came out later. So Crash was like what I had. It was just a circumstance of the time, So it was Crash, it was Tekken 2 mainly. I didn't grow up with the first one. At least not as a small child. It wasn't until, I don't know if I was double digits yet, but I think it was definitely way later that we were like, shit, I didn't stop to think, there's a Tekken before the second one. So, and we talked about that in our Tekken podcast, but our first one anyway, about the whole series. So, Tekken 1 we ended up playing later, but Tekken 2 I definitely remember growing up with, and then 3 onward. Crash 1 first, and then 2 and 3 onward, because 2 was like, by the time I started playing games, 2 had to have already been out or almost coming out or something, so like, that's so long ago, and it's sad that it feels like it was that long ago. But certain little memories I have too, like not knowing how to spin the little log things in the Great Gate in Crash 1, and Grandma was like, try spinning it. Because my grandpa, the three of them before, because this was obviously before you, so if we're talking late 90s, Vic was born 2000, so it was me, grandpa, sometimes mom, because, sometimes grandpa, because he would go work, sometimes mom, she would go work. So they've all helped me with certain games when I was a small kid. So I remember grandma was the one who suggested to spin the logs, the log platforms in, or the stakes, wherever they were, in Great Gate. Playing Crash Bash a couple of years later. Grandpa was the one who taught me how to spam square in the polar bear mini games to not fall off the edge. And mom and I played a lot of Spyro, so she was the one who got the furthest. And any inkling of, like, I remember some of Wizard Peak. I remember some. I never got that far as a kid. As a kid, I would get as far as like just a little into Peacekeepers, but then so seeing Wizard Peak, seeing like what little I can possibly remember of like the homeworld of Beastmakers, that was all mom playing. So, and then seeing Nasty Nork, I had a vague memory of her getting Nasty Nork, but she never got to beat him. So I'm trying to get her to play Reignited so she can in some form beat him again, and actually try and do it this time. So it's just things like that, playing Frogger. So this is probably a weird question. I don't know what this can be considered mentally, but do you associate games with any type of particular food you would eat or drink you would drink while playing a certain game? Because I got a couple of those. Or just nah. Because like they're your snacks you get from the liquor store across the way from us, but
there are.
But I mean like specific things that you like to pair with like a game you're about to play or something.
Not particularly, no.
There were these weird little. I thought I found them again recently, not in person, like online, like the name of them. But they're these little Hershey Kiss looking things with little like, not polka dots because they're little physical like things. I don't even know what they are. These little things on them, and they tasted kind of minty, and they were these candies, and they were chocolatey inside, so they were almost like Hershey Kisses, but they were coated, and they were different colors, and they were coated and had these little balls on them, and we used to, I forget what store we would go to that even had them. It was probably the little market that used to be down the way, but in any case, I would have those while playing Frogger, specifically while I was playing Frogger on PS1. It was just weird little things like that. I had orange slices while watching a Winnie the Pooh VHS I used to have a long time ago. And I would always eat orange slices while watching Winnie the Pooh. It was so weird. I had little associations like that. But it's all just part of the memories I had. So like that was PS1. Also with Rayman, freaking Space Invaders, Cuber. So it's all the ones I always talk about, especially on Twitter. If y'all ever check out my Twitter, if I ever retweet things from an account that's like PS1 memories go, like I'm always like those games, Pac-Man World, stuff like that. So demo discs as well. Oh my god, the demo disc for PS1. I never grew up with any PS2 demo discs onward. I didn't know that there were any for those onward as a kid, because my memories as far as demo discs went kind of just lied right there with
just stayed with PS1
because it was Jam Pack, and Jam Pack I think did do some for PS2.
Jam Pack, Underground, fucking
PS Underground, yeah.
And see,
that's what PlayStation Underground used to be. Now, the name PlayStation Underground is still around, but they're more of like a, not podcasty, but more like showcase thing for games. Because Crash, Insane Trilogy, Spyro Reignited's been there. I think CTR. So they go over games that are like about to come out or the hottest up and coming things. So the brand's still there, but back then, in the day, they used to do demo discs, and they were called Jam Pack. So
yeah, that's what I find funny about how like you remember all the stuff like when they came out. For me, it was almost the same way. It was just the fact that it was later. It was just later, like when they were already around, you know.
Because with Spyro, that was how I got into it. See, I remember that specifically. I think I also talked about this back with Miharu on that podcast, but with Spyro, I had the demo first, and I even played that on Destination Mark. I played that exact demo because it still works. It's choppy because the disc is old, but it still works to this day. And that demo, it was like one of the latest builds before the final, so it was actually very close to completion. The only difference is where some dragons weren't implemented, some of the voices were different, with not even different takes, just different actors. And Nestor is not voiced by the same guy who voices him in the final. In the demo, it's a different guy. Same line said differently, maybe a couple different words here and there, but it was the same technical thing. But the music in Artisans was the title screen music, and the only playable... No, sorry, there were two playable levels. It was Dark Hollow, which had the same music and same everything. That level was pretty much final, except for like a dragon or two didn't appear. It would just show the dialogue, the text dialogue of what like the hint was supposed to be that they would give you. But Stonehill had the credits theme. So I still associate... I can believably put my mindset back into associating the title theme with Artisans and the credits theme with Stonehill, because that's how it was in the demo, and that was my first experience with Spyro. And that was before the game actually came out in 98. So that's pretty crazy to think about. Like, that's how it was. And with Crash, don't even get me started, freaking playing the shit out of all 5 PS1 games, and then also with the demo discs, having the ones that didn't have like a whole bunch of demos but had a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So you would see that the making of Crash 1, making of Spyro, not Crash 1, Crash 2 or 3, maybe of Crash 3 for sure, because they put the little camera on Morgan, their dog, and she would go around and you would see and you would hear like the scoop of what they were working on.
Even looking at like the
concept
art, the art,
like Jason Rubin explaining to whoever was beside him like who Coco was and who like Tiny was and Demodial. And then you get like behind the scenes music, Stuart Copeland, and those videos for Spyro 1, those you can still find like on YouTube, but those are on the demo disc. So like every time I watch those, I just get like a huge fucking kickback to like 97 or whatever, and
I get a kickback to just early 2000s because watching those with you and stuff like that back then was very like I don't know. It's so funny on how me being born how I was. It's so funny how that works.
Of the new century.
Because it's so funny because it's like
not even.
It's like for me it's weird because I feel like I'm in like a mix of like late 90s and
you're
2000s.
both, yeah.
Because it's like even though I was born in 2000, I grew up with a VCR. I grew up with stuff. VHS tapes. I grew up with
that stuff wasn't outdated yet. Like the tech was improving. Okay, let's say 90s. Let's say mid 90s, but like the 90s in general, 90s and 2000s. From 1990 to 2010, those years right there were like the cusp of the literal revolution of where tech was back when I was a kid and where we are now. And it wasn't even fully where we're at right now, but it gave birth to the iPod, iPhone, Blu-ray, DVD, flat screen TVs. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have any of that shit. And cell phones were either still those big-ass bricks or those weird little ones with the little buttons. Not even the one that I had when I was in high school where you would flip it up and then you would text it with the keyboard. But, no, they were flip phones.
Yeah, flip phones.
Because Miharu had a couple of those. And I always wanted a Motorola Red. Because those were the new ones at the time. I remember seeing commercials for those. And I was still like in, like 4th, 5th grade when those were new.
Damn.
I wanted one of those. Because the cool kids had them. And you would just flip it. And then it was a whole thing. Before iPhones, it was just a little fucking flip phone from Motorola.
It's also funny, like, whenever I listen to people talk about their memories of, like,
I'm gonna be one of those people when I'm like 80. I'm gonna be like, back in my day, we had VHS tapes.
I'm gonna be the exact same way, because it's like, I will have those memories, so I'll be like, back in my day, we didn't have none of this flying cars shit.
Flying cars.
Our cars were on the ground.
Oh, boy.
But that's why I think it's funny when people talk about memories.
And our cell phones were in our hands, not integrated into our left temple.
I think it's funny when people talk about having memories of, like, those older consoles, like NES or something like that. Cause
I want to hear a motherfucker come on to, like, our comment section and be like, I grew up with the fucking Magnavox Odyssey. I will be like, please tell me your story. I need to know that. And I'm sorry I called you a motherfucker, but anyway, this is a hypothetical motherfucker. I don't know if a theoretical motherfucker, if you will. I don't know if you exist or not. But in any case,
I don't know. I kind of, like, envy people that can remember those times, because, like, especially when they say, "Oh, when I was 2," and it's like, huh? I don't know what
I don't know how my memory works, but, like, I can recall a lot of those memories.
I don't know how mine works, because, like, I literally, every time I hear stories about myself as a baby, like, I do not remember them at all. Like, I don't remember when, because there's a photo of me, a baby photo of me, where I'm on Grandpa and I'm playing PS1.
Yeah, I don't know what you're sitting on. I'm just playing.
Yeah, and I don't even know what game it was. It's not on the TV, but
I remember there was a picture that we took where I was in his work jacket and his hat, and his thing went down like this, where, like, you couldn't see my. I've got my sweatshirt on, but, like,
where you couldn't see your hands.
The sleeves are so dangly that they just go over. I remember taking that picture. I was standing on top of the stool or on top of the kitchen chair, and back then, me standing on the chair, I'm about as tall as I am actually right now. Maybe a little shorter than that. But it's just weird what your brain remembers. And coming back to games, on this video game podcast.
I know. Because that's why I always say, for me, that's why I always say, like, my earliest memories of playing games, it comes from PS2 mixed with PS1 and GameCube. Like, those are the earliest that I can remember, that I myself can remember.
So let's cap off that generation and bump up to the next one by saying that when I was about 6, we moved to that apartment that we had. I don't know if you remember that, because we were a baby.
No.
You were little. So we were only there for about a year. Back then, that's when years and school days and school years felt really long. So, like, I thought we were in that apartment for way longer than we actually were, but Mom says it wasn't that long. So it was just the 3 of us. We were in that apartment. And that Christmas, she did the thing, and she had me on the camcorder. Again, camcorder, which is the predecessor to the digital camera. Where you would... Okay, so she recorded me, and she woke me up, and I came down the hall to the living room, and she was really creative, again, with how she would wrap for Christmas and stuff. She did the thing that was my biggest present for that year, where she did a big box within a little box within, and then a box within that, and a box, so it was like Russian doll style. And then in the bottom was a big box that when that opened, it was the PS2, that PS1, the PSONE, that little small PS1. Because she didn't know we didn't know backwards compatibility was a thing. So she thought PS2 played PS2 games, PS1 was PS1. So essentially she got me 2 PS1s. But with the PS2, it was that, the PS1, Tekken 3, because it was brand new, and Crash Wrath of Cortex. So Crash Wrath of Cortex was my first PS2 game, and then I got Tekken 3. So the big, bulky, huge first PS1, that was still hers, but then she got me my little PS1, which is down over there somewhere on the floor in my room. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but it's there.
Yeah, it's like in a corner over there.
So that was my first console that belonged to me, even though she bought it for me, but because the PlayStation I played on as a tiny child was hers. So that was my first console, or my first two consoles. So that was PS1. PS2, you know, just the highest fucking selling video game console in general of all time. So that shit was crazy, not just because it could play games, but because it could play movies. You know, so that was like a huge thing.
I forget that that's a feature.
It's been a while. That used to be the PS2 used to be our DVD player for like the longest time when we first got it. So I
don't remember.
I got that big bulky one. Where is it? I still have it. Here it is.
Oh my god! Holy shit!
Oh, all the dust. Sorry. Big chonker, big chonkus. Here he is. Yep, that's that one. Big bulky PS2 right here. God damn. Who knows? Because it's still in pretty good condition, it might still work. The thing that happened was something with the disc tray. Either it messed up somehow, or the reader inside. I don't know if it was the physical disc tray or the reader inside. One of those two stopped reading discs. So that's why we retired this big guy, and then Grandma bought the silver slim PS2 down there, but then that ended up the disc tray warped. So then back when I was hanging out with Caleb in his office and we filmed all that stuff with Westside Studios and all that nonsense, I bought, when he was starting to sell stuff off because he was going to move, I bought his little black slim PS2 off him, and that's the one that we're using to this day, which is that one on the screen right there. So we've got all the slims. We've got the big bulky chunker boy right here, which I got to now put back. Oh, great. I'll fix it later. You know what? I'll put him on the floor. Oh, Jesus. I'll fix that later.
I hope you can hear all that.
Probably. So, PS2, I have to unfortunately once again confirm, because I'm sure this has to be common knowledge at this point in my little circle of people who watch, that I didn't grow up with Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, like the big guys that are essentially the spawns from Crash and Spyro. Never played them. At that point, I didn't grow up with them. I've got a lot of those games now, and I've beaten first Jack, first Sly, first Ratchet. And I'm trying to trickle through all of those franchises now, if I ever have the time to be able to really actually trickle into them. But I never grew up with them. Instead, I just I continue with Crash. I continue with Spyro. So I played again. Wrath of Cortex, my first game. I like it. I don't care that people say it's bad, it's shit, and it's this and that, and I'm like, it's fine, you know. It had some pretty okay ideas, and Enter the Dragonfly, which was a whole other beast in and of itself. Yeah, I can recognize that's a pretty bad game, but like, just watch Miharu's video, which I can link if I can remember down in the description. She did a retrospective, which I and a lot of other people contributed to in the community. Plus, I edited the video for her, so that came out a couple months ago. But I just continued on with those: Twin Sanity, Hero's Tale, here and there. I mean, even still, I haven't beaten Hero's Tale, but you know, Legend of Spyro. At least the other two games. The first one I got on GameCube, but New Beginning, but Eternal Night and Dawn of the Dragon I got on PS2. So Eternal Night. Oh, Eternal Night was so fun, especially the part where we left it for like a very long time because we couldn't get that final fucking. It wasn't even the final boss. It was those final ambush little things where we had to just go through hordes of enemies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we've talked about that before. So that was fun. PS2. What do you got? Pac-Man World 2, fucking amazing game.
There's a lot of games that I can associate with like my earliest memories of PS2. So I would say
SpongeBob, Battle for Bikini Bottom.
SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, Soul Calibur 2.
Soul Calibur 2.
Tekken's 4 and 5.
4, 5, Tag.
Tag's
a big one for you because you're attached to Tag.
Yes,
Tag 1.
So
it's so much fun.
Pac-Man World 2. Funny enough, Pac-Man Fever.
Pac-Man Fever. We played the shit out of Pac-Man Fever.
We did. What else can I remember? What was the other one?
Looking back at the games, oh fuck, what do we have?
I'm trying to remember. Twinsanity, iNinja.
I was waiting to mention that because I just said that we would talk about certain games that people didn't know about, and I swear, please, whoever watches or listens to this, please do yourself a favor.
I think TAC.
Do yourself a favor for the love of God and find and play iNinja. It's from Argonaut, the guys that did Croc and all that stuff, and Malice and whatever. I found out Malice came out after iNinja.
Really?
I thought it was before. The reason why is because it seems like it's less quality than iNinja. Malice was fucking weird, wasn't it?
It was pretty weird, though.
We bought Malice because we were looking for random games to play like a year or two ago, or maybe even longer than that. I think it was pre-pandemic when we got Malice, right? I think it was.
Yeah.
And we were like, fuck it, why not? It's Argonaut. They did iNinja. What could go wrong? And then it was just a weird game. And the controls don't feel very good.
It was very weird.
I thought that game came out before iNinja because of that. I was like, I don't think it's the same team from Argonaut, but if it's the Argonaut guys, then what could go wrong? It was just weird. But iNinja is fucking solid.
iNinja is like top quality.
Michael from Painbusters 316 and I would, every day after school, there was this period of time in our lives where after school, if I didn't have homework, bam, straight to his house. If I had homework, finish it up, bam, straight to his house. And we binged the fuck out of it and we beat it together. Because on my own, I only got so far until like the third or fourth world. But then with him, we urged one another to keep going and we were helping each other figure out how to do shit. And then we got through it. And then you and I only beat that game once with Michael until the second time I beat it, which was with you, which was only a couple years ago because we got back to it. And we're still going to do it for the channel. So, there's that. We will return to iNinja because remember, this is for VidGames, so.
That's really funny because before then, I never saw the ending ever. Like, I didn't even know. I never saw the last world, like the world before the last one.
And that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
We're at the final world with Zorola, her. So, after that, there's like that final little bit, but then you got to like go back and like just start farming for grades so you can get to the black belt because it's steep. Yes. The requirements for the black belt are steep. You need like 20 or so fucking grades for that shit. Yeah. It's crazy. If not like a little more, like 20 to 25. It's like around there.
It's around there. It's fucking
fun game though, as you can tell. No, it's solid. It's a really cool platformer / like kind of a beat 'em up. It's fun.
That's why it's also funny because I think it's hilarious thinking of like seeing some of the games from like PS2 having remasters and stuff like that of like ones that I recognize.
I would die to see iNinja get remastered.
I would too, but it's funny that I'm saying like how
get on that, Namco, you fucking beautiful people. You did. Hey, you're doing Pac-Man World repack. You did Klonoa. Even if those were outsourced to other companies and it wasn't like Namco themselves that did it, like at least find a company that can actually get those nuances of iNinja down. Please fucking remake iNinja. That would be awesome. Especially because there was supposed to be a sequel, but it got canceled.
That's right.
Because the sales didn't do well. Because iNinja is a fucking obscure game.
It's like a hidden gem. That's what it is.
I mean, and it's not just for PS2. It's also on GameCube and Xbox. So find it on either of those consoles. It's playable on PS2. I don't know how the other versions play, but it's solid on PS2.
I would say a lot of games that came out around the era was like PS2, GameCube, and
a lot of them were that's what we would get them for. Even if, because again, didn't have an Xbox. GameCube, we got like strictly GameCube stuff. Like, well, for the most part. Afterwards, we branched out and got some like third party or not cross platform. What am I talking about? Multi-platform shit. Because like Wrath of Cortex is multi-platform. It wouldn't be until later that we would get the GameCube port, even though it's the weaker version. But or Heroes, not Heroes Tale, Into the Dragonfly or something like that. Also, I had another game in my head and then I forgot it. Oh, Rayman, fucking Rayman 2. Rayman 2 Revolution, because I rented Great Escape on PS1 back in the day, but I never got a physical copy of it. So when I found out that Rayman Revolution was a thing, I was like, is this a new game? I'm like, these are characters from Rayman 2. And I played it, and it's Rayman 2. But
oh, you just fucking unlocked another thing. Fucking Rayman Arena, dude.
fucking Rayman Arena.
Rayman Arena, that's also
we did a versus on it a long time ago.
Yeah. The PS2 version first and then GameCube later.
So many memories. The GameCube version is fucking weird.
It's weird. It's weird, but having, like, I think it was weird when we first rented it, but then since owning it, it's like, I
want to know why it's so different. The menus are different.
Almost
costumes are. There's certain skins for characters that are in the GameCube version that aren't in the PS2 version. I think the PS2 and Xbox versions look the same and play the same and are the same, but the GameCube one is different from the rest. I want to know why.
I think that I want to know when that version came out. I'm not sure if it was within the same
cutscenes that aren't in the PS2 version of Murphy getting the shit kicked out of him, and they're so funny.
Yeah.
Dark Rayman, which isn't a thing in the PS2 version. But I prefer the PS2 version, not just because it was the first one I played, but also of those versions of Rayman Arena. Lest we forget Rayman Rush on PS1, which we finally... You wanted that, and I don't know if I bought it for you, or if you bought it like for yourself. Or...
I didn't.
Did we get it off Amazon or from
we got it off Amazon.
Our game place? Okay,
no, we got it off Amazon. I remember because when
you wanted it.
Literally when the day when it arrived, I put it in and I played it from beginning to end by myself with very little breaks. My hand hurt.
That's just because you never played that version before, right?
I never played the version before.
Yeah, I rented it a long time ago.
But it's actually really funny because it feels like it's just a very primitive version of Arena. Like, it's like humble beginnings, and then Arena was just like, here's all this other shit.
It's the same thing with Rayman 2, because Rayman, The Great Escape, that's Rayman 2. That is Rayman 2. Despite all its Dreamcast and 64 ports, The Great Escape is Rayman 2. Then they completely rebranded it into Rayman Revolution on PS2 and all that stuff. I don't know if it was even... Actually, I think it was PS2 exclusive. I don't think it's for GameCube or anything like that. I've only ever seen it for PS2. So I think Rayman Revolution is a PS2 exclusive. But, under a different look, a different branding, like, it's so weird, but it's the same game. But with bits here and there, extra stuff. Like, it's weird that Rayman games have that happen to them. But then, of course, we get Rayman 3, which is, like, one of the coolest fucking games ever. And I remember renting it. I remember not knowing it existed, but then seeing it at Hollywood Video and being like, what? And then we rented it, and I was like, this is a fucking weird game, but like in the best way. It was so cool. But I never found it like at Target or anywhere, Walmart or anywhere else to actually buy. All I could do was rent it. So I was like, it eluded me for the longest time. And then finally, and I never beat it, but I got really close. So I don't even know if I have that save file anymore, but I did get very close to beating it, but I've never beaten it.
Yeah, because I kind of remember where we left off, but at the same time, I'd have to like remember what the name of the level even was that we left off on. For me to remember, because I kind of remember.
I kind of sworn we were in the Land of the Living Dead, but I don't know if that's where we actually.
Could have been that, but I don't remember.
I think that's coming up to the end, or maybe there's a little bit more after that.
Something like that. I just know we were getting close, but we stopped at that point.
Oh, you didn't even say, PS2 came out for us October of 2000, so. Right before you were born. So it's older than you by like a month. Whereas I'm older by the North American. I'm older than the North American PS1 release by a month. So but PS2 is so many. Yeah, Rayman Arena with the guys, the Paymaster guys, and our friends from the neighborhood. Get together, order pizza, play Rayman Arena. God, it's fucking.
God, I remember when we did the fucking glitch where you fall off the map in what was it called?
What was the Woodland place?
Yeah, the one that we always played on all the time.
Yeah, it would happen. Little glitches would.
No, but I remember there was it wasn't the one that we did for
No, there was one that glitches. No, I know.
It was the other one where on the
No, I remember.
Part. No, yeah, because I remember we do that not all the time, but I remember we tried it and we were like, oh my god, what the fuck?
It was really funny.
Oh my god.
What else do we have any with the PS2 things? Let's see. I'm trying to think of other games.
Okay, funny enough, I remember for the longest time. I don't even remember how or when we owned it. But
I didn't mention Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Oh yeah, the Pro Skater.
Growing up, I grew up with two. Well, actually, the first one. I grew up with all of them. The first one, 1 and 2, 3. For the life of me, I I can't remember because 3 was on PS1 and on PS2. Can't remember which one I played it on. I think it was PS1. Yeah, no. I played Pro Skater 3 on PS1. So 1, 2, and 3 on PS1, 4, and Underground 1 and 2. American Wasteland's on GameCube. I have on GameCube, but Thug 1 and 2.
I remember those.
Got those on PS2. Played the shit out of them as a kid. But what were you gonna say?
I'm gonna say I don't know how we owned this game, but we have the first Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, that was just because.
Was it just like? Was it just like a gift, like a random game or something?
No, I think I wanted to be. Well, I clearly wanted it for the Disney stuff because I don't give a crap about Final Fantasy. So I saw the Disney stuff and I was like, cool. I don't want to get into it too much because you can't racial opinions, whatever. I don't really care much about Kingdom Hearts anymore. Like, it was really, really big when, 2 came out. Because I remember our friend Alonzo had... You can see him in some Painbuster stuff from a long time ago, too. Like, one video. That Can Crushing one. But he had the strategy guide for 2. When it right when the game came out. So if you wanted all the cool shit and see all the artwork, they'd be flipping through it and I'm like, whoa, Sora's furry now. He's Lion King now, dude. And that was the coolest shit back in the day because what new worlds were they gonna put in, yada yada. But that's a whole other thing I don't really want to get into because it's balancing the anime shit with the Disney shit. But whatever. That's why we got Kingdom Hearts 1 though, because I was interested in it and it's awkward to control, and plot makes no sense. Stuff you've heard from other people before. It's weird.
I remember we
got to Alice in Wonderland, and we got stuck, and we never got that far again.
I say
you and I tried playing it sometime later.
We tried,
and we weren't feeling it. So sorry.
Well, it's actually kind of funny because I'm slightly interested.
Well, I mean, by all means, go ahead. I just don't expect me to join you.
No, I know. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny on how
you want to get the story so far, the recollection package on PS4 of all of the games you need to be playing before Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay, I said I wouldn't get into it. I'm sorry. Anyway.
No. I just thought it'd be funny to bring up because it's we do
have it.
We did own it years ago, when it was.
Well, I do really I unironically actually. It's funny how I say that there's games I don't like and I really don't care for, and which is true. But then once in a while they'll have a bop of a song, whether it's some kind of a track with lyrics or just an instrumental, part of the score or whatever. Kingdom Hearts, Simple and Clean is an awesome song. I do like it. Certain versions, but it's cool. So there's that.
What else do we have on PS2? I'm still trying to remember what we had back.
Is there anything else we can run through? We talked about Soul Calibur really briefly. I would like to do a Soul Calibur episode of the podcast. That'd be kind of cool, actually. But that would require us to play 4 and 5 again, which are on fucking PS3, which we can't play right now. We'll get to that in a minute.
And then fucking Soul Calibur 3, my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, there's something inherently wrong with it, but what was your thing? I forget 3 exists half the time because it's not that memorable, and it's got my least favorite Yoshimitsu in it.
It's so.
How are you voiced by the same guy, but you do your lines so differently? He does a different take on him, but there's no reason to. It's the same Yoshimitsu from 2. 2 was peak Soul Calibur Yoshimitsu, and then 3 just makes him sound all I sound lower pitched now for no reason. And it's not that they did that as an effect to the voice after. That's just the way the dude did the voice, and it's what is this? And then the designs, his outfits aren't that great.
My issue with 3 is the fact that is the simple fact of balancing. There is little to no balancing at all, especially when facing Abyss. Holy shit! It's some characters it's easy to beat them, with some it's not, and it's what the fuck even with this. Even if you go in the game settings to change all the shit to easy and stuff, it's not that easy. It is not easy.
that's some fucking Tekken 1 Heihachi shit.
Yes.
Heihachi is a fucking asshole. If you
That's
play
actually,
Tekken 1,
that's the best way I can describe 3 altogether. Is like
it's just Tekken 1.
Tekken 1,
I mean,
basically.
with not the technical side, but yeah, the balancing side.
It's the balancing. That's what it is. Because oh my god, it's so atrocious. I hate it.
I learned that the hard way. Going back to PS1 for just 2 seconds. Yeah, I learned that the hard way with Tekken 1.
3 is like the one game, like one of the games in the Soul Calibur series where I had to look up how to unlock the characters. Like without even knowing the character names, I just looked up what the incentives are to unlock them. It's so ridiculous. It's like, how do you even expect me to do this?
I'm trying to think of other things that we played. Yeah, we would later, like I said, get into Ratchet, Sly, Jack, and all that. I tried Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. It's okay. It's whatever. It's a weird platformer.
Yeah, but see, this is also the time when like PS1 was a very big thing. Only because that's where most of my memories of PS1 mostly rely on PS2. Because that's when I can remember playing CTR or like the Crash games, Spyro, and like Tekken and all that stuff. Like that's where I can I'm like, oh yeah, I remember playing those games on PS2. I can't say I played them on PS1, or at the very least, if I did, I don't remember.
Also, let's not forget that the PS2 actually was very technically advanced for its time. It was actually ahead of its time because it did have the PS2 and Xbox did have not just backwards compatibility. Well, PS2 had backwards compatibility with PS1, but also there were select games that had network features, so you could go online with a LAN adapter, which we never had.
Oh yeah, PS2 and GameCube and all that. That was the internet experimental phase of consoles, because if you wanted to play online, you had to have a LAN connection. And there were modes in games where it's like, play on LAN or whatever.
Yeah. I remember there was a Tony Hawk game. I think Pro Skater 4, like Underground or something, has it. And let's not forget too the iToy, because I've always wanted that shit because Michael had it, and it was so cool. And then with certain games that didn't you only use it for like one thing in certain games. So for Tony Hawk, and I think it was Underground, you could use the iToy and get real awkwardly up close to it, so it could take a picture of your face, and then the game would map it over the custom your custom character that you could design, and you're playing as you in the game. Except it looks really awkward and really flat, and it's like, it's the funniest shit.
I think
I've always wanted to try that out.
I think the beauty of those kind of games like that is just making the custom characters and stuff like that. Just making all the random weird characters.
But like the iToy, we got fucking Kinect now. We got VR, and like we wouldn't have that publicly available the way it is now if it weren't for innovations like that. The iToy was still an innovation, even if it was really choppy and weird. VR stuff's still choppy and weird today. But it works more now, and people know how to actually craft really intricate ideas with VR in mind and with Kinect and all that, I suppose. We wouldn't have the fucking PS Move or the Wii Remote and Nunchuck or any of that crap.
We wouldn't get awesome games like Astrobot and Beat Saber or something.
So after all that, we got PS3, which is Sony's, PlayStation's awkward teen phase. It was the whatever mom phase, because sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. It was really picky on what it wanted to do and how it wanted to run half the time. So we never experienced any crashes with any of our games, but it's just very weird in how it works. And I say that because like it's certain things, like I'm finding out, trying to record for YouTube, like, because it's got the HDCP thing built into it, so you have to find a way to work around that by getting some kind of an HDMI splitter or some kind of thing like that. And it's just very awkward, and it's got a Blu-ray drive. Now, I'm saying this because that's what's going on with our PS3. Technically, it's our mom's because we bought it for her for like her birthday. She kind of saw through it, even though she uses it too. She would use it too. She's like, "You just want this so you can play games on it, huh?" And we were just kind of like, maybe. But hey, Tekken 6 You know, fucking.
Tekken 6, Soul Calibur 4 and 5.
Soul Calibur 4 and 5, Tekken Tag 2 later on.
Tag 2, yeah.
Tekken Revolution. There were a lot of games we got on there that were just experimental, like Warp, Cubics. These are games that we actually...
Ibanov.
Games like Warp, Cubics, Ibanov, what else? There was like, I think it's called Closure was one.
Closure, yes. Because I remember that it's bitchin' fucking menu music.
We leave it on there. It's loud as shit.
It's loud as hell.
Cool.
But it sounds
That was
awesome.
a cool game. These were all games I just experimented with, and they were games we were going to play on VidGames a long time ago. And I'm talking about when we had our original character, stupid, shitty little renders that I made. So I'm talking back when the channel first started, like right fresh out of high school, I found these games. And I'm talking 2013, 2014. So I found those games and played them, and they were super cool. Jetpack Joyride, yeah.
Fucking,
we played that like earlier this year. We popped the PS3 back in just to like mess around with the controller that I bought for it. And
it was such a fucking trip.
Not only was it a throwback to like damn near 10 years ago, we got stuck playing it because we were just like, oh my god, we haven't played this in so long.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god.
Definitely want to do it for the channel. Again, you will see PS3 content on VidGames once we get the Blu-ray drive fixed. Now, this era of gaming was very awkward because same thing with the 360, it would red ring constantly. PS3 had a Blu-ray drive issue. So our PS3 has a Blu-ray drive issue. It will not play PS3 games or play Blu-ray discs, but it can read PS1 games and it can read regular DVDs. Another awkward phase about the PS3 is how it chose to do backwards compatibility, because there are some models. We're even looking right here. Okay, we got the big, bulky, huge boy, which we don't have. We have the middle one. We're on Wikipedia if you want to look at this shit. There's the middle one, which is the slim. That's the one we have. Then there's the top loader, which this little bit here, you slide to the left and you pop the games in right there. Wes has that one. So you got 3 versions of the PS3, which is really fucking weird. Some of them, some early models of the bulky dude can play PS1, 2, and 3, no problem. Pop the disc in physically, doesn't matter. The one we have doesn't do anything at all with PS2. You cannot play PS2 games on the PS3 that we have, which is that middle slim one. And then it's like you have to go with the gigabyte size in order to figure that shit out. Like, what model do I use? Because there's like an 80 gig model, a 60 gig, and it's like, it's so fucking weird. And then there's some versions where you can play PS2 games, but the console has to have this little PS2 thing that's for free, thankfully, on the store, downloaded onto it first to help it run. And it's so like, it's its awkward teen phase. It doesn't know what it wants to do yet, and it's just defiant all the way through. It's like, what is this console? And introduce the menus, what we have for PS4 and 5 now. Started with PS3, stronger focus on internet connectivity, playing games online, shooters aplenty, shit like that. If you didn't get a PS3 for Call of Duty, then you got a 360 for Call of Duty. So, and I know because Michael and them did it. Every time, so what started as playing with, CTR, the original, I don't know, I have to specify that, of course, CTR on PS1, or iNinja with Michael, became Michael and his other friends. Well, they were my friends too, but I would go over and I would have nothing to do because I'm just watching them play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I specify the original Modern Warfare 2 on PS3. So that was how that was. Are there any other games that you remember?
Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
A bunch of fighting games we played on the PS3. And were there any platformers we played? I'm trying to think. You know what? I got the games right here. Hold on.
Well, I'm
turning completely around.
Did we also get
Portal.
Did you get both Portals?
Portal. Which actually wasn't until later because I didn't play Portal until I was with Caleb. Hanging out with Caleb. Oh boy, I just pulled a bunch of games out of nowhere. Okay, what do we got here?
Jesus.
This is awkward. Oh yeah, actually, Jak and Daxter is where I first got... the PS3 is where I first got to play Jak and Daxter, because right here we have the HD remaster collection of the 3 games. Got some Ratchet and Clank here that I never played all for one. The orange box had Portal 2 or Portal 1 on it. The PS3 came with Toy Story 3, but we never played it.
Yeah.
Some more Ratchet and Clank. Uncharted. Of course, how do we forget Uncharted, which is really fun. Didn't beat it on PS3, but I did. The very first thing we did on VidGames was a little bit of Uncharted 1, and that's what made Wes and I want to play it again after the pandemic, because we felt it was a special thing to do. Finally beat it, since at that point I did beat the first 3 Uncharted's, actually, and that was all on PS4. So Portal 2, best game, you need to play it. Got some Minecraft on here. Yeah, here's Tekken Tag 2, Tekken 6. So there were a lot of fighting games, and if for any platformers we played, it was remastered shit like Jack.
Yeah, and it's really funny because speaking of Minecraft, I remember 2013. I was so into Minecraft.
You were.
Like, I don't even. It's funny because I don't exactly
remember.
We
got you Minecraft story mode, and you barely played it.
I know. I think we still have it in there.
Oh, it's still there. Oh, no, yeah, it's there. There are more games than just what I showed off, but I don't want to have to dig through all that.
I don't know. I remember, it was like somewhere in the beginning of 2013 or something that I was just so into it. I don't know how. I remember exactly how I found out about it, but I swear to God, I was digging through my fucking mind palace.
Yeah.
Right, searching for my memories of
earliest. For my memories.
So, trying to remember my earliest memories of seeing it, and I was like, I remember seeing all these people play the very, very early versions of the PC version. And
of what now?
The PC version of Minecraft.
Oh, Minecraft, yeah.
And I was like, what was this? There was this one person that I was thinking about. I was like, are they still around? And I checked, and it's like they're still around today. And I was like, holy shit! And I went back to watch those videos that I remember seeing, and I was like, oh my God. But
hey, check this out: PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah,
which we were just talking about not too long ago.
Yeah. I remember when we saw it, I was like, I want to have a physical version of the game. And I remember.
Do we have? We don't still, do we?
I bought that some time ago.
Oh, you did?
The funny thing was that I saw a physical version of it at I don't even remember. It was like a what was it? Not Kmart. Why am I thinking Kmart?
God remembers Kmart. Am I right?
I think it was Walmart or something. I remember we were somewhere and I saw the game there, and I was like, oh my God, I want it, but I don't have the money for it, and I never. And that was the one other time. No, that was the only time I ever saw physical version until until I think we went to GameStop or not GameStop,
our
Blue
place,
Shell,
yeah,
and saw it there, and it was cheap enough for me to get. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna get it. Because for at some point we had gotten the digital version. I don't remember when. So
on again, this was Sony's and the PlayStation's a weird experimental phase, because not only was there the online stuff, we just saw this during our E3 throwback stream, our second one that we did not too long ago from the time we're recording this, where back in that era, Sony was really pushing PlayStation Home.
Mm-hmm. It was very weird because I feel like they were.
It was bizarre. I remember fiddling around with PS Home back in the PS3 days, and it was very weird.
It was so weird.
I didn't know anyone who played on it, but I made a stupid little simple avatar and just ran around, nothing really to do. It was half Sims, half that was your chat room area. Mm. It was awkward though. So
I feel like PS3 was a very, just throughout the entirety of its era, it was just very experimental, and not even just with online stuff.
They were trying to find their new identity. They were trying to figure out things. That's the era where things were changing. Gaming was changing. It wasn't necessarily about. It was still about the experiences, of course, in terms of the worlds you can craft, the characters you can create, but it became more about connecting with other people through online, playing stuff made for online, but a lot of those just happened to be first-person shooters. And I made my whole quick reviews thing on Doom, on Destination Mark, and I talked about that's why I had to make that part in the beginning, talking about first-person shooters could be really cool, and some of them I got the appeal, but it didn't appeal to people like me. So for gamers, nerds like me who like the platformer characters and stuff, that stuff started to die down, and shooters effectively helped do it. Shooters and fighting games and other stuff that were more like aimed towards the hardcore audience. You always hear that thrown around, but that was the era. That's just the truth of
like
mainstream. Yeah. Stuff was definitely streamlined for more for a wider audience, and it was just, but it was just handled so awkwardly.
That's why it's so funny. That's why I think it's funny when we tried to like get the things that was like we I know we said it before, I forget when, but we did try to play
Modern Warfare 2.
Modern Warfare 2.
No, so that was at a time in my life, and I will probably reiterate this story when we eventually get to doing a Crash episode of the podcast. But I was at this point in my life where, because I was in high school and everyone would not shut the fuck up about COD. So I'm like, and it wasn't like my mental state for games specifically in this time wasn't like, am I wasting my time with whatever? Hell, that sounds like my Crash something Wumpa teaser video. A little bit, I drew a little bit of inspiration for that little part of the skit when I did that video on Destination Mark. I showed off the Aku Aku pizza box, but because that's kind of how I felt, but not to that detrimental of like a fucking like mental state. So it wasn't like it was crippling me mentally. It was just more of like, do I need to like change what I'm playing? Is everything shifting to where this is what we have now? This is just where things are now. Well, I'm never going to get another Crash or another Spyro the way they used to be, or even just at all, because at that point, we're already going in. This came out when November of 2006, so and then they, for some reason, have to remind us 16 years ago. Jesus Christ, over here on Wikipedia, friggin'. So you got to think like, okay, 2006, we got what for Crash? Fucking like, boom bang. Fucking like tag team racing, and Spyro was going through a fucking identity crisis, trying to going through Legend of Spyro and all that stuff. So like, as all that was happening, after that they were just cut off. So like we weren't getting new Crash or Spyro games, and PS3 era was still going strong. But then things like that, because then you get into the weird shit, which Matt the Muscles talked about it, is what happened on PS All Stars. Other franchises were going through reboots, going through reiterations. Tomb Raider had its reboot there. Devil May Cry had its reboot there. And people weren't really gelling with a lot of that stuff. And it would
I think even Resident Evil too.
Resident Evil went through a lot of weird shit because it had 6 and like all that other crap that was going on with it. So just long-standing franchises from back in the PS1 days were changing. Or some were just getting cut off like Crash or Spyro altogether. And had already gone third party years ago prior. Or I keep saying third party. Sorry, I mean, well, yeah, but I also mean like multi-platform. So PS3 was just a very weird era of trying to figure out, where we're going, what demographic we're hitting, and are we inclusive for everyone, or is that Nintendo's shtick and we're now hardcore? Not really like only, but we're mainly hardcore now, or whatever. Because you look at their E3 conferences or whatever, and they push a lot of like just shooters, Assassin's Creed, stuff like that, Infamous. Devs that made platformers were now making, Uncharted, Infamous, Assassin's Creed. What else was, some stayed consistent, and some were still doing Ratchet games. But they did try to branch out, actually, in the PS3 era with Resistance. First-person shooter. So, look at how Jak fucking evolved. I know that was still PS2, but, like, Jak started out as a Crash-esque platformer, very inspired by Crash, and then became a GTA thing. Almost. A platformer / GTA clone. And it's, like, the craziest shit to see.
It's such a weird time.
Remember when we used to watch The Tester?
Oh my god, dude.
I hit you with that mid-drink.
You did.
Only because Aaron Eagerafter was on it.
The fucking tester. Oh my god, I remember that shit.
But we even watched before his season because he was in season 3. But we watched the other.
Oh yeah,
two
we
seasons.
watched the other ones. Yeah, we
that
didn't
shit
just
was
watch
fucking.
that, but,
that shit was weird.
It was pretty weird.
It was funny in like that, like
kind of like,
oh my god, they did this kind of way. Not in like a, oh my god, what happens in the next episode? Like an actual reality show. It was like, the fuck is this idea?
Well, no, I kind of thought,
but it was kind of funny.
I thought it was all right.
It was creative in how they would theme the challenges around certain franchises.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like.
But how the judges acted and the kinds of guest stars they'd bring on who were game like directors or managers or people from dev teams like David Jaffe or whoever. Or I think Alan North was on one episode since he was, he's Nathan Drake, so he came on to do some kind of Uncharted thing or whatever. So like, what's his name? Was Tim Schafer there? I can't remember if he was. I don't think he was, but in any case, so yeah, that was weird. It was just a very experimental time.
It was, yeah.
For franchises too, because I always say that we'd said it in our Tekken podcast that Tekken 6 being on PS3 was the start of what we now know as modern Tekken. Like Tekken 4 and 5, especially 5, helped to get it there, but it didn't actually start, I feel, until 6. 6 and Tag 2, plus Revolution and all the little shit they would do, like Prime Edition and all that nonsense. But then, that going into Tekken 7, now we got 8, like this is modern Tekken. This is just where it's at now. And it's interesting to see how that changed. And especially then the awkward fucking shift with Soul Calibur 4 and 5, especially 5. Cool games. Just fucking weird to see. Like,
there are some like really good games here and there, but like it's just they're kind of like lost in this sea of like games like the other like shooters and all that stuff. Like I was just saying, like there are probably some other ones that we might not even know are still on PS3 that are like really good ones. But
there's shit like Mirror's Edge and like all these other games. Little Big Planet, we played a little bit of that. We have the first one. Which, if we'd never played Little Big Planet, we wouldn't have gotten to Sackboy for PS5, which we'll get into later. But, that's PS3. So PS4, when that shit, god damn, I had to put it in. It had nothing to do with E3, but in our E3 reaction stream, I put in the PS4, that starter video that opened up the PS4 reveal like showcase. Not of the console itself, because that happened at E3, but prior to E3 that year, that was like 2013. They had earlier in that year, it was like January or March or somewhere around there. They had PlayStation held this kind of E3-esque conference or like press whatever, where they were up on stage and all that, and they revealed a bunch of games like Knack and like all that stuff, and they showed off PS4 and kind of what their lineup was going to be, where we came from, how we got here, stuff like that. That Knowledge Crash, and I was like, holy fucking shit, because that was the first time Crash got any sort of recognition from PlayStation since Mind Over Mutant. So it's things like that I remember for PS4 era, early PS4 era.
I still remember that too. My god.
Because you had Watch Dogs, Killer Instinct, not Killer Instinct, sorry, Killer Instinct. No, what's it called? What? Oh, I'm forgetting the Ghost. Was it Ghost Protocol? I'm getting all my shit mixed up. Killzone Shadowfall. There we go. Jesus Christ. That's what I was trying to say. What did I call it right now?
Killer Instinct.
Killer Instinct. Okay. Ghost Protocol. What is that? Isn't that Call of Duty? No, that's
Ghost Protocol.
What's that?
I don't even remember.
What the fuck? Hold on. I'm stopping everything to look this up.
That sounds like a Tom Clancy game or something. Tom Clancy's Ghost Protocol.
It could. I know what I think it could be.
Probably is.
Oh no, it's Mission
Impossible.
It's a fucking movie. Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Killzone.
Killzone Shadowfall. What? Killer Instinct Ghost Protocol. I mashed a bunch of weird shit there. Knack, Killzone Shadowfall, Watch Dogs. A lot of those like opened up, and then you got your Gran Turismos and all that stuff.
You got now you've got car games.
You have guns, ropes. That fucking abridged video. Watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, got a lot more Call of Duty in that time too. Call of Duty's just been out in like every fucking year. There's always like every year there's just one Call of Duty game at least. It's
So
like, what the fuck, even?
with PS4 though, it was weird because for a couple years since it had come out, we didn't have one. So we were pretty much on top of all the PlayStations up until PS4, and that was because at that point, and we talked about this in our Nintendo consoles podcast, when we got the Wii U for Christmas, that was around that time, 2012 or so, and I have the clip again. It's not on my computer, but I've got that video clip from my mom's camera, and she said, "Okay, this is the last console we're gonna get you. It's up to you from this point onward to make your own money, to buy your own consoles for yourself." So my first console I bought, I think I want to say that was the Switch, but I think it was the PS4. No, it was the PS4. I'm dumb. With my first check from work, I got the PS4, and that wasn't until 2016. So it was like late 2016, early 2017. It was for Christmas, so that was my Christmas present to me. I got a PS4 with Uncharted 4. It was that bundle because we got the blue controller.
That I think doesn't work anymore, but
well, I don't know. It's whatever. This is a good console. Doesn't do PS3 games. Backwards compatibility at this point is just basically out the window. Now you just gotta do it digitally and shit. But
it sucks. I wish it was backwards compatible with just discs.
People were really hoping, we'll get to it again, that the PS5 was going to be backwards compatible with like fucking everything. But alas, no. Because the PS4, they kind of started to work the kinks out from the PS3, so that's why I guess that's not backwards compatible. Because the PS3 fucking discs were like dual layered or some shit. The same thing with the Wii. Because Brawl was dual layered, whatever the fuck that even means. So like, if Brawl fucked your console up or it itself messed up, it was going to be really awkward to try and get that disc repaired or the console repaired if a dual layered disc like that was the one that messed it up in the first place. So I think that happened with the PS3 as well. But the way they did PS4 was, I think, slightly different, I guess, because there are no issues like that anymore. The PS4 doesn't, mess up the same way the PS3 does. I mean, it still can, I guess, but this one here is the bigger PS4. We got the slim one again. There's a slim one. And there's also now that we've got 4K gaming and all that, there's also the PS4 Pro, which we got Mom for, I think, her birthday or Christmas, like a couple years back, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Let's say I use PS4 to this day. I have it on my room.
It's what we have now. But since that came out, like 10 years ago almost, we're actually climbing up there. The PS4, can you imagine the PS4? Okay, so I tend to consider things retro by about 15 to 17 years at the earliest, but 10 years means it's climbing up there. The PS4 is already climbing up there, and it's still considered modern, and it's really weird to think about, because at this point, if development, stuff went the way it usually does, because you gotta think, we just went over it, in terms of North America stuff, PS1 came out in 95, PS2 came out in 2000, that was only 5 years. There's so much innovation within that 5 years. I think we're hitting a point now, and I'm sorry for whatever reason my voice is all weird, but we're hitting this point now where things are very similar. When we up a generation, we don't have to up it too much, weirdly enough, at this point, because they're starting to look very similar. PS3 was that in-between phase where 1 and 2, I mean, we've got 5, so it's smack dab in the middle. 1 and 2 had huge innovations, and 2 and 3 had huge innovations, but 3 was the start of, by the time we got to 4, yeah, shit looked a lot cleaner, but the amount of visual tech and stuff was relatively the same. It was definitely upgraded, but it was still, Uncharted 4 looks like 3, but way better, and bigger in its own right, but each Uncharted's bigger than the next. Same thing with, which we'll, again, get to a little later, the Ratchet reboot 2016, Ratchet & Clank versus Rift Apart on PS5. The fidelity is better, the visuals are a hell of a lot more upgraded, but they can look roughly the same if you really stop to think about it. So we don't have to up it that much. So games for the last decade or so have been looking kind of samey in that sense. But I think PS5 will definitely, I think certain games. Like Rift Apart does take advantage of how much more you can do with PS5, and definitely Tekken 8 looks like a huge step up from 7. What do you remember of PS4 though?
Of like the early days of PS4, what can I remember? Besides Knack and those ones.
Oh god.
What else do I remember? I think like I can remember when 7 was announced, and even like
I lost my goddamn shit when 7 was announced. Do you remember that?
I remember. You just, oh my god, you just unlocked that memory for me. Because I remember you went.
And we didn't record it. We didn't record it.
We never recorded it, but.
Because it was an Evo thing. We don't watch Evo.
Here's the thing, right? When it was announced and you saw it, you know how.
I didn't think it was real.
You know how you lost your goddamn mind when you got the, was it the gold relic or platinum relic or whatever?
Oh, for Insane?
In Stormy Ascent.
Stormy Ascent.
Remember how you freaked the fuck out? That you reacting to Tekken 7's announcement was pretty much the exact same.
Yeah. Well, in hindsight, I also reacted that way before we started recording shit for the Game Awards and all that nonsense and PSX or whatever to Soul Calibur 6. I also reacted that exact same way.
Oh, I think I remember that too, yeah.
But see, because I didn't remember how Tekken 6's story ended and whose story it went with, or if the scenario campaign was like the story for 6. I mean, it was, but like if that directly led into 7 story mode, like I don't know. But what I'm saying is I don't know if an arcade ending did it and led the way for 7, or if 6's scenario campaign led the way for 7. Or a combination of the two. I don't fucking know.
It probably is. I think it's more so with the campaign because that's in the story mode for 7.
Well, sure. But I had no reason to believe there would be a 7th game. I didn't think we were going to keep going. So like I'm just like, all right, Tekken 6, whatever, that's what we have. And then we're flipping through YouTube on the TV and we see the thumbnail for it and you just got a big ass the logo and I'm like, excuse me? And I was like, hold on, that can't be real.
Yeah, and then
I'm like, that looks too good to be real. And then we watched it,
and
it was like official. I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck? Yeah. And then it showed Kazumi, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then he goes, you killed my mother. I'm like, what the fuck? Kazuya's mom! What? And it was like the craziest shit.
Dude, I remember. We lost our fucking minds.
No, but what made me lose my mind about Soul Calibur is when we were watching the Game Awards and the guys are up there, Harada and the director of Soul Calibur, which I'm forgetting his name. I'm not familiar with him as much as I am with Harada, but they're both up there and they just go, before we leave, I have one question for you. And they're like, broken English, but they're so sweet about it. And they're just like, does your soul still burn? And I'm like, Soul Calibur! I was like, what? Because there were rumors that there were going to be a new one. There was going to be a new one, but we didn't know if that was true or not. And then it just happened, and we were like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
And then we saw all the character designs when they showed them off. I was like, oh, my God.
Yoshimitsu just looks like Tekken Yoshimitsu, but sort of samurai. So it still fits in line kind of with Soul Calibur's Yoshimitsu. Yeah, and then VR. We got the PSVR, and then that opened us up to fucking Astrobot, Beat Saber, Polybius from Llamasoft, which we played on the channel. We also played, what was that Cube one? Super Hypercube. Yeah. Really good VR games. And I've said before, I put Moss, I think, in the E3 thing we watched on Destination Mark. I want to play that. I played the demo of it. I'd say at this point, demos now are just, buy on the store. And which is fine. It's whatever. They're more accessible. They're accessible to everyone. But because magazine stuff like Game Pro or Game Informer, they're still around, but not the way they used to be. And of course, the same thing goes with demo discs and stuff. That faded out after the PS3 era for the most part.
Gaming magazines, I wish they were still around, dude.
Like again, they kind of are, but just
but say like
how
they used to. I wish that it was still like that because I remember when we would always get the fucking Nintendo Powers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was like the coolest shit because that was when like the Nintendo Power.
Nintendo Power ended right as the Wii U was about to come out. That ended in 2012.
But it's so funny because it's like that's like when people talk about certain games. We found
Shantae through Nintendo Power.
That's what I was gonna say. Like when people talk about certain games, like for me, I only remember when I would always see them as the front cover of Nintendo Power. Like Xenoblade, I remember it was the front cover of one of the things. Well, one of the issues. Shantae was one of them. And like certain other games that were really popular.
Brawl was EGM. That was Entertainment Gaming Monthly, but that was still a fucking hyped thing because we talked about that on our Smash Brothers podcast.
Yeah,
that's what got me really hyped for Smash Brothers Brawl.
Yeah, so it's like I wish all that stuff was still like around now.
I wish they would still do.
I wish it was like that.
Because even if again, because we don't see that stuff anymore, and we're not subscribed to shit like that, obviously, because a lot of those magazine runs are over and things like that. But even if they are still around, they're not the same. They'll probably have their articles or whatever, but they're not gonna have the free poster or the fold out like DK64.
Like, we've got the fucking
up on our wall. We've got this Nintendo Power thing. It came in the last issue. It shows all the covers from the first one in '98 to the last one in 2012.
When they recreated that one.
When they created the first magazine's cover.
Yeah.
With the Claymation, Mario and Bowser and all that.
Even when they included like a little message too. That's on the other.
The little message, yeah. Because we were subscribed to them for about a good 2 or so years, or 3, or it was a while actually because of all the magazines we have.
I'm saying because look at all of the magazines that we have up there
in the closet.
Yeah, like all of those. Like I remember when that shit came in the mail, and we would be like, "Oh my god, a new Nintendo Power!"
Shit, the next Nintendo Power. Yeah,
it's like, okay, what else is in here?
Well,
like,
dig on this, right? Because back when Cheat Planet was a thing, you didn't have your like. Oh, cheat codes on or off. When I found out that they put cheat codes into games blatantly right there in the menu and you can toggle shit on and off, I was like, excuse me? Like, I felt like, there I am shriveling back up into an old man. I was like, I anamorphed into an elderly being because I was like, back in my day, you had to input that shit in the main menu and get a chime to know you did it right. And you wouldn't know that thing existed unless you looked it up in a book or on one of the many various sites on the internet back when it was in its infancy and YouTube wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I found out they did that, because they do that, they put cheats in the menus, and I'm like, what? Those aren't cheats to me. Cheats is up, down, left, right, whatever. Fucking the super passwords in Crash 1 that were like 25 characters long and you had to remember that shit or write them down I still have, they're somewhere. If I dig that up, I'm going to start crying from just pure nostalgia. I have like 4 pieces of like copy paper just like stapled, filled with fucking cheat codes from different games and shit.
Oh, those are probably...
They're somewhere. I have some. They're somewhere. That's just how it used to be, man. Like, oh my god. Yeah, demos you just get on the store. They're just digital cheat codes you just put in. Video game manuals are fucking non-existent anymore. And
that's the sad
part. Praise those like WayForward that still do it with the controls, because even any modern fucking video game manuals that are made nowadays for whatever reason only just have the controls and the warranty shit and that's it. But some little devs that can like fucking wait for it in them, they do make some, and some of them are custom for like, some of them are for like, you know, special editions of games or whatever. But like I mean, we bought a physical copy of Seven Sirens and it came with a manual and it has the, you know, controls, but then it's got the characters. So I'm like, that is what I look at manuals for. And I've got a bunch of them in my closet that you can just pull out and be like, hey, here's Crash 2 Insanities, here's whatever, here's all these Game Boy ones that I have.
All the GameCube ones, even.
All the GameCube ones, Mario Party and like whatever the fuck
Mario
else.
Party, Luigi's Mansion, Mario World.
Yeah.
All that shit.
I just wish we're not even done yet. We gotta get, okay, so that's PS4. Is there anything else?
I'm trying to
think. I played near. I don't still know what the fuck it's Automata, whatever. Near, but not PS3 Near. See, Wes and I tried to record a thing for his channel a long time ago with the very first Near, which I'll tell you right now is nothing like the Nier that you know from all the. It's nothing like that. We played a bit of it. I remember like just a smidge of what we played for that. It never got released on YouTube, but and I don't have it anymore. But we tried to do like a little Let's Play thing. I think it was for his Gaming Creed Let's Play series on Western Boulevard. But we tried playing Nier, and he left it here, so I just have it in our collection. And since he doesn't have a PS3 anymore, I don't think he was like, oh, whatever you have, you can keep it. So I just have his copy of Nier now, the first one on PS3. But Nier Automata was super cool, and I want to get back into it. I really, really do. And they even re-released it recently. There's like another, I don't know if it's a sequel, but it's that Nier Replicant game. And its title was like version 1.8023, whatever.
It was like all the fucking random numbers and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a sequel to the game, and it's like an actual or not. Like I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But Automata itself, it was a really cool game, and Wes brought that one over because he had it on a PS4, and I liked it so much that I bought a copy myself, but I didn't get very far into it, so I want to play that again. Last Guardian I want to play because I didn't get too far. Uncharted 4 again, didn't get too far.
Death Stranding,
we didn't get very far. So there are a bunch of PS4 games that we have there that we do want to get back into, but then we played like Mortal Kombat X and 11.
Mortal Kombat X. Yeah. X
was pretty damn solid. I do like it a lot. It helped me get back and break out of that weird thing. I talked about it again very briefly in my Doom quick reviews video. There was this weird era, and I talked about it too in our Mortal Kombat podcast with Wes. I had this weird, strange era back in that like the PS3, PS4 time when I was like, gory games are ewy. And I just didn't really care for it. And I used to use that to say, not that it was a flaw, but like in my own stupid weird way, that it was just not worth getting if you weren't into it. So that was just my mindset at the time. But obviously now I don't give a fuck. I beat Doom 2016.
I think it's really funny you say it like that for you with gory games, because that's the exact same way it was for me with horror games.
I'm still kind of like that with horror games because I still really don't want to play a FNAF game. But like, you're breaking out of that more and more. I see.
I'm starting to really open up more to it.
There's certain things for horror games I'm breaking out of, kind of, but there's I want to play more Resident Evil. I want to try Silent. We were trying to find Silent Hill for VidGames this year, or if this goes up 2023, because I don't know. For VidGames.
If you want proof that I've gotten after. Let me try that sentence again. If you want proof that I've broken out of the stigma of like horror games are so scary I don't want to play any of them. I am so fucking adamant, and it's not because of Game Grumps, but I'm so fucking adamant on wanting to get Shattered Memories on Wii.
Silent Hill Shattered Memories.
Because I saw it once and now I don't see it again. And it's like, what the fuck? See, and it's like there's like all these like horror games and stuff like that. It's like I would love to actually give them a try. But like, you know, like there are some games where it's like I don't think that it's something for me because it might deal with some shit that could happen in real life or whatever. But like I've been trying to get out of like the horror game like stigma and all that stuff like that. Like whatever it was that I wouldn't see at first, I'm trying to like get myself to just look at it to be like to get over it. You know, but yeah, I find that funny that was how you described you with gory games and stuff like that. So it's the exact same way with horror. And then I was like, I think it was Five Nights at Freddy's that broke it mostly for me because
considering the fact that you have fucking Help Wanted on VR.
Well, not even so much as that. It's the fact that
I'm saying the fact that you can put that shit on and have them scream at you literally in your face. And be like, okay, well, fuck, I lost. And not, oh my god, I'm done with this. Because that's what I would be like. You're not getting me in my headset with that fucking game. But the fact that you're breaking out of it, like, yeah, it just shows. You know, we are now trying to broaden our horizons. That doesn't mean I'm going to play Call of Duty anytime soon. But you know, we're trying to play different things.
We tried Call of Duty.
It's not fun.
It's not for us. So you know, I don't think we need to get any more to try it or whatever. So, even shooter games too. Yeah, even FPS games as well. Like, I got Overwatch and I was like, I love it.
I mean, yeah, you were the Overwatch, me with Doom. because it's non-traditional stuff, or it's stuff. Well, not so much non-traditional, but because hell, that's what shooters used to be, was stuff like Doom. They were running guns. They're called running guns, but they are still first-person shooters. So Wolfenstein and Doom were like the pioneers of that, in the same way that Crash and like Mario 64 are pioneers for platformers. So it's all kind of the same principle. But you don't see shooters like that anymore. So Doom coming out when it did on PS4, and shit, learning about Doom since, now, because when I start to get into something like that, when I start looking it up, watching everyone else play it or review it or do whatever, so I'm into it. So at this point, I can fully say I'm into Doom. And also, not just because we played the first one on PS1 for VidGames, but that's what helped me go like, I want to play, the PS4 one, and then I did, and it's awesome.
It was the version we should have played.
It's the version... Okay, I'm just going to say it right now. We wanted to do, on the channel, a Christmassy, Halloweenish kind of, only because I wanted to play Doom 2016 for the channel, because I played a bit of it and then decided, oh fuck yeah, we need to do this for the channel. And then I beat the game, and then I was trying to make sure you didn't see it yet so you could react to it blind on like a one-off for the channel, but we didn't know what we wanted to do. And then with Crash Team Rumble that came out with the trailer, and then all these other things, having to prep for Christmas Eve and all this other stuff, like, we just had no time to, and we had to find other games to play for that block, because we were going to introduce a new block. We might do it this year if this goes up in 2023, like, who knows. We might do a new block, because I made new renders that you're not going to see for some time, if at all. So we'll see what becomes of that. But yeah, I would love to play with other Chaser West Doom on, since you've already beaten the game. I beat the game. I'd be willing. I'll definitely revisit it as a playthrough if one of the guys wants to do it. Because it surprised them that I played a first-person shooter and beat it, and they were like, "What the fuck? This isn't the Marcelo I know." And it really isn't, because I don't like shooters. So like the fact that I found one that I was like, "This is fucking baller!" Like, and I beat it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's funny just to kind of end with like genre stuff and not so much as consoles, because we're kind of talking about other things besides the consoles. But
yeah, I'm trying to think of other stuff for PS4, but.
I would say I feel like when it comes to certain
Nitro Fueled,
yeah.
obviously the remasters now.
Oh my god, yes.
Obviously the remasters, a lot of hours on Nitro Fueled, and Sin and Reignited, of course.
I remember
Crash 4.
Oh my god, yeah. I remember when when the first trailers came out for Crash and Spyro.
It doesn't even feel like it was that long ago, but it was a couple of years ago.
Like a few years ago, and like
lost my shit every single time. Lost my shit with Rumble, so
Let's see, yeah, and like
if anything, Crash or Spyro happens,
all this stuff for me was junior high and high school.
If anything for Crash and Spyro happens at all, just from this point onward, just know, take to heart, I'm gonna lose my shit over it. So that's just guaranteed. But we were gonna say, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was gonna say like
genre.
I feel like with certain genres like FPS or maybe even horror too, and like all the other stuff, I feel like I could only ever get myself into something like that. And it's so funny on how certain things work, only because it's like when you have that genre that's super popular, I feel like people, or at least like like if you're a big team or a small team or whatever, I feel like most people rarely ever innovate off of something like that. In terms of like taking the genre and doing something different with it to where it's a mix up and it hits, like because if I was still in my mindset of like FPS games don't appease to me, I would never have gotten into Overwatch, and I never would have like.
Well, yeah.
I never would have I would never have considered getting BioShock. I didn't before, but I did later because I was like, fuck it, I want to get a game for Xbox, for Xbox One,
Xbone.
It's the BioShock collection was there. It was the 3 games, so I was like, fuck it, why not? And like, it's the first one is really fun. I like it, and like I'm wanted to get into
But
playing too. And
here's
all
the
that
thing
stuff.
too. Despite that being Xbox, I can go back real quick to your horror thing. At least, so to go back into consoles real quick before I go into the next one. And you can finish your thought too. The PS4 has been allowing us to experiment because not only are we finding shooters or horror games on those consoles on PS4 and stuff that we specifically you and I can enjoy because we're so like particular in that sense when it comes to genres and stuff. The PS4 has got it, but PS4 has also brought itself up to where we have those options. And what I mean by that is like again, look at PS3, but that was one huge ass shift, not just with the technical side, but what they were pushing, and they were pushing more hardcore-esque stuff. And again, you have to put air quotes around hardcore, but like the shooters and the beat 'em ups and the hack and slashes, you got Bayonetta, whatever else, shit like that, and racing, a lot of racing games, but those more like the more like the I would say traditional, but like your Gran Turismos and your whatever Forza, whatever. Those get pushed a lot, and especially on Xbox too, because going through their E3 conferences when I made that big compilation for the stream, they would remember how they would just bring down or in a new model of car they were pushing for their latest game. That's what it was about. Just what could be flashy, what's the next newest one of that iteration of that series or whatever, whether it's a racing game, a fighting game, an FPS, something or other. So like that was PS3, but now even though those are still thriving very much so throughout PS4 and 5 and Xbox One and Series X and all that, and even now even Nintendo's adopting some of it over for Switch, but we've got platformers back. We've got Ukulele on PS4, Had in Time.
Yes, hadn't done.
Insane Reignited, Nitro Field stuff. It
was it's funny on how it's kind of like a rebirth of platforming and all that.
I mean, that's
stuff.
literally what Platonic called Ukulele, the rebirth of 3D platformers, because they're trying to recapture and it's not just because the marketing definitely gets you. That's what the marketing is supposed to do, with Crash and Spyro, with Ukulele, games like that. Had in Time did it because they were indie in a more natural way where they weren't pushing it in your face. Hey, it's 90s. Remember the 90s, dude? It's back. Because that's what Crash and Spyro and mainly Crash and Ukulele did. But Hat in Time was more like, okay, well, if you remember games like Wind Waker and Sunshine, you're gonna love this game. And that's basically just what. But more games and more indie people, because indie people now more than ever are really getting looked at to bring their games up on to console, and some of those get acclaimed, like get really highly acclaimed, to get like really fucking. Because look at Yakuza Metro and all that stuff that Hand in Time will get later. So and Hand in Time has a gigantic ass following. So like indie games can now, and if they get so well known, then the big three might even look into bringing them on as some kind of a bigger team or whatever. There's always that chance, or because there's another game I just thought of, fucking Undertale, playing it on PS4. And a little bit of Deltarune as well.
Yeah, it started on PC and now it's on console. Same thing with even Doki Doki.
Like, and that's what we did.
And then it was console.
We did for Undertale. We did that. We played on PC first, and then we got the PS4 version. So
hell, even Deltarune.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, for what we've got right now, we've been playing it on PS4. Was there anything else since I kind of cut you off there about the genre stuff?
All I was gonna say was just like, I think it's funny on how like certain things that I would have never, things that I never gave a second glance at, but then I did. It's so funny on how like when mindsets change enough to where you give it a shot, and then it's like, okay, it could, like, this kind of genre could be better if it was more diverse in one way versus with pushing it this other way.
I mean, yeah.
Like,
but that just depends on where the genre is going or what you decide to do. Because look at Doom again real quick. It didn't necessarily innovate. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. Back when it was Doom 4, they were trying to take the series down and let this route that fans weren't really gelling with because it wasn't the run and gun style that people loved. Because Doom isn't only It's literally a revolutionary. It's like up there with 64, the Mario 64, or other games of that time, Rock Arena, as these big, huge games that are like set in stone in history of like this game did something for this genre or for gaming as a whole. So the fact that that happened, it has so many fans, Doom, that when it became what Doom 4 was supposed to be originally, people weren't gelling with it, and then they reworked it entirely into what we have now, what I ended up liking a lot. Because I didn't know first-person games could feel like that, because I'd never played a run and gun before. So, I mean, before Doom 1, when we played it for VidGames, but that made me go, okay, let's try out this Doom, and I didn't know that that's just what... It's cool that they went back to it. Sometimes all I have to do is just simplify and go back to what made it popular or what made it fun. You play Call of Duty, it's not fun because it's just, okay, I'm with these guys that I don't know who are probably going to die in the story because that's how they go. That's how these stories go. It's war. Or you're playing online where people are teabagging you and calling you faggot and shit, and they're like 12-year-olds. I'm sure that's still what the fucking
for sure
space is like there.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's fun how like there are those games where it's like it would have been you probably would have noticed it earlier or been into it earlier had it not been had the genre not been pushed as like this is hardcore. This
I mean,
is
sure.
like you're in war and all that stuff. And
but I think again we needed that so that way we can get to where we are now, where it's like, okay, now we're more inclusive, where platformers can thrive, colorful games can thrive, colorful games can have an attitude, like the hardcore stuff. Hardcore stuff can still be there, and some are made more fun. Like, I remember how we were talking about when we were watching Game Awards, where Destiny 2 came out, and it looked kind of like just this bland shooter, and all the DLC it's got for it is like all this weird, colorful synthwave shit. There's this evolution where they're like, okay, trying to do different shit.
Yeah, that's what's funny, because I thought that Destiny 2 was just dead. Or at the very least, I thought it was like barely played anymore, or something like that. No, it's still around.
It's
so
still
it's like,
strong.
Okay.
Well, that leads us into the final console for right now that Sony has, even though they're already talking about PS6 for some fucking reason. The PS5, which came out in 2020.
The best year ever.
Eek. Collar tug. Because, okay, 2020 was a lot of things. Not good was definitely one of them. So, not the most optimal start to the new decade. But in any case, we got the PS5. Or I should say, some people got the PS5 because it was very hard to get a hold of.
It was very hard. It still kind of is to this day.
You don't just see PS5s or Series X's or S's or whatever the fuck just in the little glass casings at stores right now. But Sony's trying to work to make sure, since this was a pandemic console, it came out right in that time. So, and then with scalping and stuff, it just got really fucking hard. Thankfully, I am not saying this to brag, it's just the truth of what happened, because Miharu and I stayed up until like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning trying to refresh on Amazon to try and get a PS5, because we knew they were going to be really hard to get, and we wanted to be one of the first ones to try, and we failed that day, so we were like, fuck. But later within that week, I tried on Best Buy, and we got it. And we got it for its original price of $500. So we managed to get one pretty early on, right when it released. And doing that during the pandemic, having to go and pick it up from Best Buy, where they had to walk out and put it in your trunk for you because, again, no contact. That shit was wild. It was fucking crazy. To think that was ready basically 2 years ago is nuts. Yeah. So the PS5 kind of struggled for a while there because of its sales, but not so much so because it's actually a damn good console. And what did we get for it? We got fucking Sackboy. What else did we get right then and there?
Astrobot.
Well, there was Astro's Playroom because it came on the console automatically, but that was such a fucking awesome game.
Yeah, it's so good.
I love Astro's Playroom. And it really makes me hope that we do get another Astro game, because Team Asobi is still around. What sucks to make Team Asobi still a thing is that the Sony Computer like Japan Studios division, the ones that made like Ape Escape and all that, I think that was them, aren't really around in the traditional sense anymore. As some of them kind of absorbed into Asobi and others went just wherever, I guess. But I'm hoping that they make more Astrobot games. They are working on something, I think, right now. I just don't know what it is. Hopefully it's Astro, but we'll see. They might do more outside of that. Yeah, November 19th, 2020. And in some other areas, it came out in 2021, which is nuts. But, yeah, we got Rift Apart, which is a fucking awesome game, of course. And right now, there are still some games that I want to get into, like Forspoken's coming out. We got to play the Street Fighter 6 closed beta, which we were going to try and record as a one-off and do it for like an hour, hour and a half, but I missed the deadline just barely. Like, I tried waking up and like, okay, let's see if we can get on, and it was already over, so I was like, fuck. So unless they do a third one at some point, you'll have to wait until it comes out in June for us to actually play it on the channel. But we were going to do the beta for a one-off. Because we've done test fires for Splatoon and stuff, and we did the beta for Ninjala and stuff in the past. So we wanted to do the beta of Street Fighter 6. It was solid, actually. I liked it. It was really good.
I will say that beta was much more responsive than the other test fire stuff we've done before. Because not that those ones were like shit or anything like that, but it was very hard to do like a match of any kind to like even play more than one round, you know, because it was always just disconnect after disconnect. But with this, with the Street Fighter 6 beta, it was like it was like what? I think we got like what, maybe a total of like 2 to 3 disconnects or something like that.
Maybe.
But other than that,
not even like. I think they were kind of close to each other for a minute, and that just might have been a connectivity issue. And then after that, there were no more.
And I think maybe like one laggy-ish match.
I had my first match was laggy.
Yeah, but
not even that much.
But just a bit. But other than that, like everything, like doing matches and all that stuff, everything was quick and fast and solid. So it was like, you know, it was very fun to do.
So that's definitely a game I'm anticipating. What else? I want to play the Forspoken demo. We just got that, so I'm going to be playing that soon. Well, I'll have already played it by the time this goes up, probably.
I think is PS5. Well, no, it's never mind.
What?
I'll just say, was it the? Because since it's backwards compatible with PS4.
We're finally back into some backwards compatibility. Yes, it's with PS4.
But it's not. But not like with discs or anything like that, right?
PS4 discs. Yeah. Yeah. I could do it. Hello, Street Fighter 5.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot.
I'm playing Street Fighter 5 again with it.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I forgot.
Because, okay, so yeah, and now our method of buying games is a little different, which is weird. And I'm talking about any pandemic things. I'm talking because we buy a lot of our games digitally now. But we're not full digital because I love having my physical stuff. I still buy. I just got Doom physically the last time we went to our retro place. So I know you name dropped it. I still don't like. I'm not comfortable name dropping it, but like I buy stuff digitally, and now with how it works for Christmases and stuff, you know, I have to hold off to make sure that we're recording this after Christmas. So I don't know if I got Eternal for Christmas or not, and if not, then I can just get it by getting a PlayStation card, buying it digitally, and then eventually invest in getting it. So I tend to double, triple dip sometimes with certain games. I'll do it digitally, and especially it's really good on PS4 and 5 because they make it to where you can. We played Insane early, we played Reignited early, we played Nitrofield early. The only reason why we played Crash 4 earlier is because at that point I got a contact, so we now get, you know, early codes and shit to actually play the game, but for like sponsored purposes and shit. But with games now, you can pre-order them digitally, and on PlayStation consoles mainly. I don't know if Xbox does this, and I know Switch doesn't. They unlock a couple, like some. It's a game by game basis, so some of them can unlock at like 6 in the in the evening, or 9 at night the following day, or the day prior to the actual release day. So that's the kind when we hold on Destination Mark Day Zero streams. It's because we pre-ordered the game. So like for Reignited or whatever, like I just said, we do Day Zero streams because we can play it for like a couple hours before I have to go to bed for like work or whatever the next morning. We can play it the day before. And that's cool. So I tend to do it for that reason and just because it's really easy. The cool thing about PS5 that I was like, damn, this is like magic, is because the PS4, for as good as it is, it's so funny how every generation, like, this is just what happens. PS4 comes out and it's like this whole fucking step up from PS3 and it's crazy and awesome. Compared to PS5, it's like completely outdated. A lot of aspects about it are outdated. The fact that they push stuff like what was it? Oh god, what's it called? Like the solid state drive, the SSD. Yeah. So it showed that they're pushing things like this, and the DualSense. We don't have DualShock anymore. We have DualSense, and it's a really cool controller. And we talked about that in our controllers podcast. So I'm reading it now on Wikipedia. There's like the ray tracing, which you can see in games like Rift Apart. Astro's Playroom like boasts all of these features.
Astro's Playroom definitely because it's supposed to be like you're in the console or whatever. Like you're looking at through the aspects of like different like the GPU stuff.
Yeah.
Like
so,
GPU, SSD, and all that stuff. All the technical stuff.
The thing that made me go damn, and I hadn't done that with a console in quite some time, was when there are games where in fact because you know how they can say, this has these features and these features are here, but then you don't really get that in the experience. No, I got it for the PS5 as a console because when they talked about SSD and then I played games like Astrobot where the loading time is like fucking almost little to none, I was like, oh shit. But then also compared to PS4, which is why I said this earlier, using that little switcher feature to just get out of a game and go to the next one, there's like boom, and then you're on the splash screen waiting, and then bam, you're into the game. And I'm like, fuck, that's fast. Like, and then certain games, we played Crash 4 on PS5, and it's the PS5 version of Crash 4. I mean, we now have, there is no physical release for a PS5 Crash 4, but there's a digital version that they did, where it's like the next gen update or whatever. So you have your PS4 Crash 4 on your PS5, if that makes any sense. Then you download the next gen update, and then it's PS5 Crash, where it's at a consistent 60 frames. The load times are a fuck of a lot faster. Because Crash 4 on PS4 still, I mean, that update also applied to actual PS4 Crash 4. So if you have it digitally on the PS4, I'm just using Crash 4 as an example because you can see it. Crash 4, when it first came out on PS4, was a little wonky, only in the sense that it played great, was great, felt great. Those load times were fucking long. Shit was about, I mean, everyone made fun of the load times, the fact that they were about as long as Wrath of Cortex. Everyone was like, damn, this Crash 4 really is like the previous one. It even has the long loading times. That update fixed it. Even before the update, putting it on PS5 fixed it because those times were cut like more than in half. That was like 3/4 cut off.
Yeah.
That shit went from 40 seconds to like 5, if even that. And then with the update, it's like 3. Like, it's fucking unreal. And it's just like, damn. And the fact, too, that sometimes even when you're on the splash screen, if you decide for whatever reason, which I have right then and there, I don't want to play this, you don't have to wait on the splash screen. You can go into the menu and then just exit out. And it's like, what? PS4 couldn't do this. And so to see how fast it goes, like, it's nuts. But of course, there were some games like Sackboy did it. Spyro, for the first time, a PS4 game on my PS5, did it, where there have been some crashes here and there. Like I just said, Sackboy did it. Spyro, on one of the streams I did on Destination Mark, did it. And I was like, wow, okay. Random, but all right. So there was a little bit of that, but games, our games, for our personal experience, haven't really done that. As of recent. I hope I don't jinx it by saying that, but it's a solid ass console. Like, I really do hope that, because it seems right now that scalpers aren't really interested in it anymore, in the consoles, and prices are going back down. Like, things are finally starting to kind of go back to normal. So hopefully, like Wes just got a PS5, and
At some point,
one of my hardest friends got a PS5 recently. So
at some point, I want to get a PS5 because like
we were gonna get one for you. When we got ours, we were like, oh shit, and then Mom and I, because she was hovering over me when I got it on Best Buy, because Best Buy did it the best in that they did it in waves. So you had to wait at certain times in the day to try and see if you can just get in there, refresh, try and get it before it's sold out. Because that was also another joke, another meme, another whatever, that they would sell out real fast. The other joke is that scalpers would put them on fucking eBay or Amazon for double the price, for literally $1,000. And even though Erin got hers, she didn't have to pay $1,000, but she did have to pay more than $500, and that just sucks because it's like, come on, like, not only did she get it later than when I got it, but she got it for more, and that's like not acceptable. But we were so once we got ours, Mom was hovering over me, and she was like, "Oh, see if you can try one more. Just push your luck, see if you can get one. We can get one for Vic." And I'm like, "Okay." Unfortunately, that's when it sold out, so we're like, "Fuck," but we were thinking of you when we tried to get it. It wasn't for lack of trying.
No. And like,
fucking scalpers and shit.
Yeah, it was just at an unfortunate time, and it's like it's whatever to me. It's like I don't have the space for it anyways, so it's like it would have literally just been in my room, like with everything else. But at some point, I do want to get it. At some point, I do want to, like when I do start working and all that stuff, I want to save up so I can get it at some point.
Get your job. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we're getting PSVR 2, which I'm excited to get.
And it looks very.
I was sent an email by Sony, being like, "Hey, since you've got your like ID or whatever, it's not because I'm a special person." They were like, "You've been chosen with a bunch of other people to apply for an early pre-order for PSVR 2." So I was like, "Huh," and I opened it and I wanted to see how much. Fucking like, well, $500 or something, and I was like, no, not right now. I was like, what the hell? PSVR was not that much, but it could have been a bundle. If it was the console and the VR headset, I can understand.
I feel like that would have been.
But I didn't see the console. I just saw PSVR 2, and I'm like, why is the headset itself like $500 or more dollars? I was like, what the... Or probably more than that. I was like, what the hell? So, like, I don't know, man. Like, because it's... I know this is a step up in terms of VR from the previous headset, the one that we have right now, where it's 4K. It's got, the trailers and everything came out not too long ago. It's like, oh, the eye tracking and all this stuff and, like, advanced shit, and the way the controllers are different. I wonder if the Move controllers can still be used, hopefully, but these new ones are more like Vive or like Oculus Rift kind of controllers. They're way different. So there's certain things that we're looking forward to for PS5, and this is just where we are now, and not everyone has one just yet, but we're starting to get out of the pandemic era for games of, okay, they're starting to become a little bit more available, so hopefully more people can get their hands on them. Because for those of you who might be listening right now who don't have any... First off, if you've made it this far, thank you. But if you're listening right now and you don't have a PS5, definitely... But you're considering getting it, but you don't know if you can, no, definitely try. Because it's a really damn good console.
It is. It's very nice.
So, I think we're far along now to where a bunch more games are coming out for it that are exclusives and stuff. And...
And if you don't have like a PS4 and you have a PS5, but you want to play PS4, you can.
For right now, too, yeah. If you're waiting for PS5 games to come out that you want, you can still play your PS4 games on there, whether they're digital or physical.
Because on the store, like it even has a section where it's like, oh, here's some stuff for PS4 and PS5, and whatnot, and it's like versions that are available for both.
But it also has backwards compatibility for PS1, 2, and 3. It was what people wanted. Tell them how you can do it.
Oh, through the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
I'm telling you to tell everyone how you can do it.
So, okay. There's this really funny little service that PlayStation has.
There's this cute, quirky little service.
And it's called PlayStation Plus. The thing you use for online nowadays.
To play online.
Which that and
that in itself is stupid.
That having a subscription service to play online, I mean, you would just done that shit for free. That's very atrocious to me.
Welcome to everyone's issue when that first dropped. Same thing with Nintendo with their $20 ass system.
Anyways,
Nintendo Switch Online.
So, PS Plus was a very simple thing. You had 3 plans: 1 month, 3 months, 12 months, aka a year. And they had their own prices, which was, like 1 month was like the cheapest you can get. It was like, I think either like under or over $10. It's like you could get a $25 card and get it. You could also get a $25 card for 3 months because that was exactly $25. And the most expensive, which was at $50, was the year. And you could have gotten a $50 card or $100 and gotten a year. Now,
they okay. To preface what he's gonna say, they heard the cry. They just implemented it so fucking weird because that was one thing, like I said before earlier in this episode, that what fans, PlayStation fans, were really hoping for the PS5 before, it came out or whatever the case was that this console could hopefully finally be backwards compatible with damn near everything from 1 to 4. It only is with 4 in terms of physical discs, but they try to find a way to implement it. There were too many cries, and people really wanted to see PS1, 2, and 3 games come to PS5, and they're there digitally. And this is how they did it.
So they thought, this very simple service to play online, at least multiplayer online, let's change that and make it to where
this simple thing? Let's make it more complex.
Let's make it complicated. So PS Plus now is like, you still have 1 month, 3 month, and 12 month. But now they're divided. Those subscription services are now into chunks where it's into 3 separate categories. There's essential, which is the bare minimum of any of the plans. There's extra, and then the most expensive is premium. The essential part is because it's bare bones. It's like that's the bare minimum you need to do online multiplayer on PS4 and 5.
But doesn't it unlock like certain games?
It unlocks certain things too. Extra and premium are where the PS1, 2, and 3 games are locked.
Okay.
And certain other ones like Doom. Like Doom's multiplayer is locked behind the extra plan.
Oh my god.
So,
but they're way more expensive now.
That's the thing too, is that those have their own prices, essentially, and it's their own prices in their own plans. So this is how it is, right? So like, let's say you want to get 1 month and you want the essential. That's like $7, the cheapest you can get it at. And like extra and premium it goes up to like the highest it goes up to, like, it's like $14.99, it's like $15. That's 1 month. For 3 months, it's like you with essential it's $25, so you could get like a $25 card, and the most expensive is with premium is for a $50 a year. The thing you would use to get for a $50 is like the essential is $60, and going up to premium is like in the hundreds. It's like 120 or some shit like that. It's the most expensive you can get.
It's because you're not just buying online anymore. You're essentially unlocking those games to be able to get. That's how they locked the legacy games or whatever they want to call them.
They call them legacy games.
Yeah, that's how they
did it.
They did it.
They did it through the PS Plus service, and it's so fucking complicated. And it's like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you didn't have to make it as complicated as you made
Why
it.
didn't you just, I don't know, keep it the same and just put the games on there? Because it doesn't do anything to your memory, to your anything,
It doesn't.
to the console.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Because remember, that was the issue. That was why PS3 couldn't do PS2 games. It was internal shit within the console. So, like, it was a technical problem. So that's not what we're facing here. This is a financial thing they're doing. And it's so stupid.
It is, and it's like, why?
So I'm not bothering with any of that. And if I need to play online because I want to do stuff, for fucking streams and shit, then I'm just going to have to get the basic shit. Because why am I going to pay all that much to get fucking, like, Crash or Ratchet Deadlocked or some fucking shit when I could just go get that for, like, $20 at the Retro Game Place or wherever?
Exactly.
Not everyone has a Retro Game Place, I understand. But there's also Amazon. There's eBay. You have options.
Let's say you have a bunch of other options than just wasting your money on cards to get
very,
on,
It's very awkward.
And it's like...
That's one of the biggest lows besides how the console came out, I think, for the PS5 right now. It's not... See, what people like that are, like, with who like to argue about console war shit is that they still try to be like... They still try to claim, Sony doesn't have enough shit for first party, the fucking exclusives. And it's like, well, no, they do. Because God of War is a fucking, like, amazing game right now that everyone's playing. And there's Horizon and all that stuff. So, like, there's still plenty of games you can play. But,
It was just really dumb the way they did that.
It's dumb the way they handle it, yeah.
It's
just too because it's just hard to get. It was also hard. See, I kind of trailed off there because I was like, "Oh fuck, was I taking this conversation?" But it's also because of how the console came out. So it being hard to get a hold of, the fact that there are a lot of multi-platform games that are on PS4 and 5, but the same thing can be said for Xbox. So that was already kind of a weak excuse from the beginning. But I don't know, because certain games got really weird. Oh, there were so many weird, criticisms. And that has to do with stuff that we don't talk about on the channel necessarily. We don't touch. Like, the things we don't touch are political things, fucking religious things, and stuff having to do with, sex or gender or whatever. We tend to not talk about that stuff. Because there was a thing that happened with Horizon. Do you remember that? Where that fucko was like, "Hi, your fans, lol. I fixed your character."
Yes.
See, I don't relate to Aloy because she's not pretty. She is flawed. Like all human beings are in the real fucking world. And it was like, hey, how about you just don't play the game then? If that bothers you so much.
The higher fans fucking joke now.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah, so that happened. But, when you take people like that out of the conversation, you still got a lot of good exclusives. And
oh, for sure, yeah. There's still a lot of good exclusive stuff. And that's not really the issue or anything like that. It's just the fact of, how certain things are handled and, I think it's more so, the decisions of, what was it that made you come to this conclusion in the first place?
See, because that's my thing right now. I know we're trailing off of Sony for just a brief minute, too, with this, but the fact that people are saying, okay, well, if there aren't too many, really fantastic exclusives for PS5, and a lot of the stuff you can just play on PS4, then where am I going to get a PS5? I feel that way about Series X. Because the Series X... Oh, and by the way, PS5 has certain little things that make it stand out, both marketing and otherwise, from PS4. Even just small things, like how the PS5 cases look with the blue and white and black. That's just the PS5's aesthetic. Versus PS4 cases and stuff. But the Xbox One game cases and Series X game cases look the fucking same. The only thing they did different was just slap a little sticker on that says, for Series X, this is a Series X game. And it's like, wow. And I remember talking to Chase about this not too long ago, the last time he came over. And Chase was saying, well, because basically they're going under Microsoft isn't trying to really compete with Sony on a console level. They're trying to compete on a service level. So if you want your premium whatever with your gaming experiences, your television TV or whatever else, Xbox is your way to go because it's Microsoft and because their dashboards and stuff are starting to look more like fucking Windows than stand out like Xbox, like Xbox original, like what it used to look like.
Yeah, that
Like
makes sense.
I really wish that Microsoft kind of kept that aesthetic throughout because as early as the 360, it kind of, started to look a little sterile, a little, kind of bland. With its loadout and just how it felt and how games worked on those damn consoles. But with Sony, even though they did go a little more sterile too, but they still try to make it look fun enough to, and stuff was still easily navigatable, if that's even a word or whatever. Navigatable. Easy to navigate and stuff. But yeah, I'm like, I'm not in a rush. I'm never in a rush to buy Xbox shit, but I'm always like, but I've been like mulling over like, okay, well, people went with Xbox Series X initially because it's like it was easier to get your hands on back even during pandemic stuff, and it's a lot cheaper. But I'm thinking like, okay, well, what games are on there that you can't get on Xbox One? Because then at that point, what's the point of getting a Series X? And because it's called Series X, and they were like, okay, this is our first in the series of like, more service-based stuff. Especially too because what consoles are doing nowadays, and see, this is PS5 and Series X are the first ones to do this at all, which is kind of scaring me a little, is that there are two different versions of these consoles where one's got a disc tray, or not even so much as a tray, but a slot, and then you got the digital version of the console where they don't have that. Everything is purely digital. And that scares me because like we're in another shift right now, but if that wins out for the majority of like everyone agrees on that's the way stuff should start going down, it'll only be a matter of time until we see Nintendo do that with either the Switch or their next console after the Switch, whatever that's even going to be. It's just going to be very weird because it's a lot of staple stuff that we know of video games can potentially start changing, and it's just weird. It already is. PS5 games are $70. And I don't know if that was just an inflation thing or what that has to do with anything, like why that, because also I just read not too long ago that Series X is going to follow that same route too. Originally they weren't. Their games were still $60, but now those are going to go up to 70 as well. So I'm wondering if Nintendo's, and Nintendo never marks their shit down for sales and shit. Rarely do they. For random sales anyway. For holiday sales and stuff they do. But for consoles and bundle packs and they rarely mark that shit down.
They really do, yeah.
So you could probably still find like a new inbox fucking like Wii for like still $250. That's how much they cost back then. Mm-hmm. Like a Wii U for $300. But that's essentially it for PlayStation. I mean, that's the journey. It's been crazy. To see like where we are now.
Yeah, and through all the time, there's been lots of good games and lots of games that we have fond memories of and stuff like that.
Yeah, like people keep asking me too, like, oh, have you played God of War? Do you have any interest in doing it? I'm like, I kind of do, but I sort of want to start like with the original games because going back to PS3, Wes and I got the collection of 1 and 2. Speaking of little remastered ports, a little combo pack ports. We got that way back then, and we played that a little bit, but didn't get too far. I did get God of War, the original, on PS2, so I might play that at some point. But yeah, like a lot of franchises have changed. Like God of War looks the way it does now. You got Horizon, so the staples and the even the mascots or the would be mascots, like Crash and all them. It's just been changing and fluctuating throughout the years. It's just crazy to see how everything's fluctuated. Is there anything else you wanna reminisce about? I forgot the PS1 controllers. We still have the blue one that we use, but those see-through 2000s ones. All our multicolored controllers.
Mm-hmm. I wish there was a bit more like those ones where you could see the inside of the controller. And
That's
stuff.
just a pure 2000s aesthetic. I would love to see that shit come back. Because consoles used to be like that too. There were N64s like that.
I'd say if we can bring back fucking vinyls and shit like that, I think we could bring back see-through things like that.
Little shells, like the plastic and stuff. Because I used to have, so I had a green PlayStation controller, not DualShock, the ones without the analog sticks. Because that's what I grew up on. I didn't even say that. I didn't even grow up with DualShock. DualShock wasn't a thing when I was getting into games. Analog sticks, I grew up without those. So I'm used to those controllers, and we've been buying up a couple of those really classic ones that were the gray and all that. I've always wanted that. Also, by the way, when PlayStation celebrated its 20th anniversary, there was a very limited edition PS4 that came out that was colored like the PS1.
That's right.
And even the DualShock 4 was colored to look like the DualShock 1. And I was like, oh, that's fucking dope.
I remember that, yeah.
And I found the controller. It's on Amazon, but it's for a lot of money. Just the controller. It's a lot of money. I was like, damn, that shit is very limited edition. It is hard to find that in full with the controller and the console and everything, but that was fucking sick. I really want, because they went back, because even the logo, the PlayStation logo, it's the same logo, but it's either black or white, and that's it. That is the logo. It's either black or it's white, because everything was like that nowadays. But the logo back then was the colorful logo.
I know everything nowadays is modern and corporate and shit,
minimalistic,
and monochrome and all
monochrome,
that shit.
Minimalistic.
Very, I fucking hate it because like. It's so weird. It's kind of funny to think how consoles have gone from like we're very kid friendly, or we've got all these really cool
or just
things.
attitude and like
yeah, and then like as you go
and
into
it's like
modern,
now it's like
the sleek new modern design.
Exactly.
PS5.
And it's like
exactly
it's like it's a car or some shit.
It's very like adult in a way. It's like going from like being a kid to being an adult, and it's so weird because it's like. It doesn't.
Well, that is what we're doing. We're going from kids to adults.
I mean, yeah.
And kids today are just growing up with it, so they're already used to it.
And it's so that's the weird part about it is that it's like when we had the like with GameCube and all that. It's very like there was a certain like attitude to it that you could associate with it.
Even oh my god, even the taglines, get in or get out, now you're playing with power,
exactly.
You are not ready. Now it's play has no limits.
Yeah.
Or like some shit.
It's some
it just sounds kind of more like
which is well see and that kind of like tagline is fine cuz yeah, play has no limits. Like you could
live in your world, play in ours. That was PS2's tagline.
Yeah, and it's like, you know,
oh, we didn't even mention PS3 had the fucking creepy baby ad.
Oh God, I try to forget.
That weird alien Scottish girl.
I try and forget that exists.
Oh, you think that shit's weird? There was a PS2 ad directed by David Lynch, and that shit was just abstract and avant-garde as fuck. Oh, it was weird. I'd never seen it before, but I always heard about it, so I was like, okay, what is it? And I watched it. And I'm just like, okay, that happened. I was like, wow. Yeah, consoles had some creepy, weird fucking ads back in the day.
They said some were creepy, some were fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Even when they would advertise certain games and stuff like that, like with certain like game commercials and whatnot, it was such a trip when you would just see like it's like. This is a brand new game, and it's like you see like the people having fun playing the game and whatnot, and like doing weird antics and whatnot, having their wacky antics.
Fuck those people having fun in my modern video game.
Yeah, nowadays it's still it feels like I know there's still some of that now,
well, Nintendo
but
does
it's
that
it's very like I don't know, it feels very basic and like bland, and it's like
basic bitch mode.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what it honestly feels like, and it's so weird because it's like it's not. This isn't how it used to be. It's like I would much rather have it to where it's like not so much where it's like it's in your face or of how like it was like it's like it's so radical, dude. but at the same time, it's like there's an attitude.
There's an aesthetic in there, like like the attitude was a product of the decade, but the aesthetic, the physical look of it was actually kind of cool. And I feel like if you can bring that back somehow, you could probably do that in a way that isn't actually dated for its time. It can invoke the feeling because that's where it was at its peak popularity, like the sketchy, weird, like the You Were Not Ready stuff. Like that was all fucking crazy, or like the GameCube look of those ads or whatever. Because arguably it started Wii, PS3, Xbox 360. What did the Wii do? It had the more colorful look, the shapes, and it looked more digital. And that was this that they were trying to shoot for, and they just kind of ran with that afterward. And we talked about that in the Nintendo's console podcast. We actually did talk something about that, just how the feel was. Even the consoles, the way they look too, because people didn't criticize this as like a negative thing. It wasn't a negative criticism necessarily. It was just more of like an observant criticism. That the PS5, they say, looks like a
air purifier.
No. Well, no, but but a like a tower, like a PC tower, or like a modem or something.
That's what the Xbox looked like, or.
No, the fucking Series X was like a fridge. And then they actually made a fridge. Jesus Christ. Oh boy. God, yeah. Memes, am I right? But no, it's actually cool to see the evolution of how the consoles looked. Because you always think, because if you try to argue, like, speaking of, oh, the consoles are all sleek and whatever nowadays, that's not how they look. No, that's how they looked. No, PS1, I mean, they were gray or beige or something. Some of them, like the PS1 or the N64 was like kind of a more grayish, or the NES and SNES were both like this beigey whatever, and they can yellow over time, because it's just the type of plastic or whatever they're made out of. But no, from as early on as the PS2, it was sleek and black. I don't think it had any other colors. I can't remember if there was like a white PS2, like a big bulky white PS2. There were the sleek gray slim ones and stuff like that, black, silver. GameCube had black, but also had for the GameCube. I think the most colorful console was probably the GameCube. For Nintendo, did I say for the GameCube? For Nintendo, the most colorful console they really put out for the mainline home consoles was the GameCube.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of.
Because there were a couple different colors. Everything else was like grayish, beigeish, or like black or white. And same thing with PlayStation. Because all of the PS5s, all the PlayStations now from 3 are black, or PS5 was white. But there is this really cool, because you can actually take those little slip things out and put other colors, so you can actually customize your color. That's pretty cool. And one of them is like black, so it's like you can have the black in the black middle, and it's like, oh, that's dope. Because they were going for a two-tone look this time around, and that's why the DualSense looks the way it does. And we have a couple of those. We have a blue one, an all-black one, which I love, and the white one. And the thing that sucks too about now going into your like minimalism, whatever, this is the first. So not only how I was saying how we had the colorful PlayStation logo back up until PS4. Well, PS3, PS4, it went black and white and all that stuff. I mean, arguably with PS3 too, but in any case, the DualSense controller, like we talked about in that podcast, is the first one for the symbols to not be colored. They're all one tone. And that was a huge thing for me, because I was like, whoa, that's weird. I mean, the buttons look cool because they're all made of like this little like crystal-ish or see-through plastic-ish, not plastic, but like, whatever. And same thing with the L and R, with the shoulder buttons. But that was a trip to see that the colors of the X, circle, triangle, and square aren't even there anymore.
That like literally everything on the controller was like two-tone.
Yeah.
That's why it's funny, because like I look at the PS4 controller and it's like those are there, and it's very like it's just
it feels classic.
The controller is
because even the shape of the DualSense is different. See the DualShock 4, we talked about this too. The DualShock 4 started to slowly change its shape. It's not shaped. PlayStation controller, DualShock 1, 2, and 3 are all like the exact same shape. Buttons are switched around stuff. There's the home button on the PS3. So some stuff shifted for analog sticks and the little analog button. That shifted stuff around. But the general shape and button layout were the same. The start, select, all that. Literally, DualShock 4 changed it. Because you don't have select or start. You've got options and the share button and all that nonsense. And the light bar and stuff. But the general shape and the touchpad. But the general shape changed to accommodate for all that too. DualSense changed even more. Now it kind of looks sort of like an Xbox controller. I happen to have one right here. This is Xbox One. It kind of looks like this now, almost. And it's really bizarre. The general shape of it. It used to have like these two circles with interconnected where the start and select were, and then the grips. And now it's because you could see those circles where the buttons would be the directional buttons or the D-pad or the face buttons. But now it looks like just one huge mesh of a controller, like an Xbox controller or something. It's really interesting to see that change. I mean, you can see it in the thumbnail. If you're looking at the thumbnail, you see how the PS1 looked in its controller and the PS5, like it's just very different. But some things are still the same. It's a whole thing. If you guys have listened this far, thank you. Also, we're done. So, is there any last minute thing you wanted to talk about or say?
Not really. Just the fact that like it's interesting having been on the PlayStation journey since the PS2, at least for me, and for you since the beginning of it, since PS1, and just seeing on how much has changed since then, you know.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Till next time, and we'll bring the friends back and talk about cool things. So
talk about other things, other topics, other stuff.
We hope you enjoyed.
Oh, okay.